Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Hope you're all doing well. What is it? What shirt are you wearing? I just noticed this. It looks like the comedian shirt, but it's not.
My happy face.
Wow, look at
My all these shirts seem to have some sort of like LSD component to them. So
that.
I'm not sure what's going on here, but it looks like a melting happy face. But yeah, exactly.
So
Look,
we're randomly gonna watch this clip first about so it's a Jordan Peterson clip, and he's talking to this guy named Keith Campbell.
this guy named Owen Benjamin's
And
dad.
yeah, and you think that this is a complete non sequitur, everybody. But Adam is convinced this guy looks like older Owen Benjamin, and I don't see it. Like I just don't see it. I mean, he looks a little bit like him, but not like severely.
You're insane, dude. You are
All
insane.
this is what I think is going on. Okay, you have a white guy with light eyes, and that guy's beard makes the chin shape seem the same as Owen Benjamin's chin shape. But they have like a completely different nose structure, cheek structure, eye structure, like iris
Look,
structure.
the eyes are angled down at the exact same angle. What are you talking
No,
about?
you're
The
crazy.
eyes are exact same shape. Mouth is same shape.
No,
His the
no,
the older guy has his nose is a little bit wider, but your nose ages as you grow
that's
older.
true.
So
No, no, this is no, you're wrong. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. Chat, how do you feel about this, chat?
here, don't move it. Let me. Well, look, this is like a total waste of time. So, but look, you
Yeah,
weigh
yeah.
in. I don't want to enlarge it. It'll take too long. Let's get on. What are we doing here?
Okay. So today, I guess, first we're going to look at this concept about the woke right very briefly, which I thought was very interesting. Konstantin Kisin has been kind of talking about this. I weighed in on this, and I saw some people react to it in a way that I think needs clarifying, and I think this is kind of the problem. And then after that, now you had said, because on Sunday we watched, the Kamala clip, and I'm kind of operating from the space where I think that Kamala is a person who is probably intelligent, but is afraid to say anything that's not outside the bounds of what should we call it, like poll tested, policy. And that's why she gives these sort of vague, general, repeato girl, same sentences over and over again. And you think that she's just kind of an idiot. And so,
Right. Well, look, I've watched probably about 5 hours worth of Kamala content now.
right, right. Well, we
So I
both did
went
the
to
same
her.
thing. We both did the
Yeah.
same thing yesterday, which is kind of funny. We both went and looked at a bunch of old interviews of Kamala Harris from like before 2015 time period.
Mhm.
And so we're going to look through. I don't know if you have any clips. I have some time codes for this talk she gave at Google that I think show that, she seems to be a person who, at least when she was Attorney General, she was not the female Obama, which comes up. She was not, Albert Einstein levels of intelligence, Andrew Yang levels of policy depth, but she seemed to pull out policies and talk about them in a way in which you'd expect a normal politician or a normal person to do, which she fails to do now in this current race.
Yeah. I wasn't really paying attention to what you were saying. I was looking
That's
up
fine.
this article.
I'm glad. I'm
But
glad you
anyway,
were just totally ignoring me.
sum it up. Look, the audience heard everything, and they're the important ones. Okay,
That's true.
I'm just here to reflect.
Mm.
What were you saying? What was I supposed to
I'm
react
saying
to?
that I think after we watch this, we're gonna watch some clips of Kama at the Google speech. I think make my point that she seemed to be a person who, had some depth of knowledge of what she was talking about, and is not just like a brain dead moron.
Right. Yes. Look, I think she's not a brain dead moron. I have adjusted my thinking, but
Oh,
I
you
mean,
have changed your mind.
I still I now I've moved from okay, she's not a brain dead moron too. I'm questioning her qualifications. I don't think the thing that they're trying to hide from us is that
Mhm.
she's an idiot. I think the thing that they're trying to hide from us is that she's completely unqualified for the job. Like she's just
When you
not
say unqualified, what do you mean by that?
to be president of the United States. She's totally unqualified. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in what? There's lots of ways I feel like you could be unqualified. Like, you could be, like, your personality could make you unqualified. Your intelligence level can make you unqualified. You could be a Russian spy. Like,
Experience. No,
okay,
she
experience.
doesn't have the experience to be president of the United States.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious because look, you said you watched about 5 hours worth of content. Here's the article I was looking for, by the way, because you keep pronouncing Kamala's name incorrectly, and I found this hilarious Huffington Post
Did I say
article.
Kamala? What are you talking about? Isn't that how you say it?
You keep
Kamala.
saying Kamala.
I'm not saying
You
Kamala.
mostly say Kamala, but anyway, I
I
don't care.
do?
I honestly don't care. But
Huh.
it made me think of this hilarious
Interesting.
Huffington Post article from January 2021. It says, yes, pronouncing Kamala Harris's name correctly is a big deal. Here's why. Kamala is Kamala is all of us whose names don't roll off the tongue of white men like Tucker Carlson,
Wow.
David
Wow. Okay.
Perdue, and others. Sitch would be in here. Sitch is
Mhm.
the others who use our names as a punchline.
Whatever. Who cares?
No, I look.
Kamala, Kamala. It's all the same, right?
I think I just thought this. I was like, look, they can't. I don't know why. Why do they have to make pronouncing her name incorrectly a dig at white men? Why are white men involved in this? You don't think other people pronounce her name incorrectly? Is it just white
Well,
men?
I'm assuming this article is from like 2020, right?
It's 2021.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, right. Because we're still in the hyper woke time period where everything was,
Oh, of course. And it's
uh,
Huffington Post, which is just,
right.
trash, basically.
Actually, I want to see if I can find it. Jesse Single had a really good tweet about this the other day or
Mm-hmm.
today. He
About
said,
pronouncing Kamala's name
well, no, it
correctly.
was just kind of about how woke things were in like 2020, how like insanely woke things were, including Kamala
Oh,
Harris.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, and he says, but obviously things have changed now. People are trying to pivot away from that. And Jesse Single today said, it remains interesting to me that so many people with big ambitions decided to dissemble about their political beliefs back then, being 2020, not realizing the possibility it would come back to bite them. Harris will try to route the next month and a half without answering these questions, I bet. Lucky for her, Trump doesn't have any stable positions either and has swung from overturning Dobbs to saying he is pro-choice. Therefore, shrug emoji. That was true.
Yeah.
Oh, and that also, broaches the question too. When you say that, like, I kind of get annoyed in electoral politics because everything becomes a whataboutism. And on one hand, it is a whataboutism. On the other hand, it's not because you have a
You're
binary choice between two
you're gonna
candidates, right?
what about Donald Trump?
Oh
He's
no,
not
just I'm
qualified either,
well,
is he?
that's what I'm curious about, right? If
I
you're going to
know.
say
I
that
know. Look at
Kamala
this.
Harris is not qualified, is Donald Trump qualified to be
Well, you got
president?
to look at the qualifications for what, right?
Right, that's
Like,
why I asked. Yeah.
this is why most people think Donald Trump is more qualified to handle the economy, right?
Why?
When it comes to leaving office on time, Kamala
Mhm.
Harris is probably more qualified, right? The question is whether or not, which is going to be more important during the 4-year term, leaving office on time or managing the economy.
Yeah, but okay, this is kind of annoying to me because this is way before Donald Trump. This is the way everyone looks at politics. They go, okay, what was the economy like under the current administration? That means that the president had something to do with that like economic situation, right? It's like, did Donald Trump, like if Donald Trump had won the re-election, okay, do you think the economy would be any different now? Or be exactly the same in terms of having the inflation coming out of COVID, all this other stuff?
I mean, I don't know. He wouldn't have forgiven a bunch of student debt.
That you think that had some substantial impact on the student debt
It,
that
it,
Biden
it
tried to forgive, and then they said you couldn't forgive, so he forgave a much smaller amount.
young people are the biggest spenders. They're the ones that drive inflation.
This sounds like a little bit of hope to me. I think there's fucking no chance. The massive amount of inflation came from going from lockdown to suddenly opening up,
How
people
much student
having a
debt did
lot
they
of I don't know off
forgive?
the top of my head. I thought you
Look,
could. I mean, you could say,
if you have to pay $1,000 on your student debt, or you have
Mhm.
that $1,000 remaining in your pocket, like who's more likely to go out and see a movie? Somebody in their 40s or someone in their 20s?
I'm gonna see, I was gonna look
Who's
up
more
this
likely
answer.
to go
I'm
out and
trying to look
spend
up
it
how much has been
on
canceled here.
Who's more likely to go out and spend it on
Okay, wait,
snacks?
hold on. What do you? I feel like you're being like wildly unfair in your calculation here. Okay, you have the overwhelming majority of inflation had fucking nothing to do. Like, if you want to say like, okay, I don't know, like 0.2% of inflation was caused, by student debt, right? If you want to knock it up to 0.5%, that's still a drop in the bucket when you're coming out of everything is shut down. Suddenly everything is open. People have all this money to spend, and there's not enough, production because of supply chain issues. And it takes like a while for everyone to ramp up again. Like to
Okay.
compare that to the drop in the bucket, which is student
Did
debt.
didn't you ask me what would be different?
I asked you, did you
The
think I
Biden
asked
Harris
you, did you
administration
think that
forgave
inflation? Okay.
138 billion in student debt. That 138 billion would have come out of the economy if Trump was still president. That's what you asked me.
I asked you if you thought if Trump was president, do you think that it would have been a substantial difference in inflation or the economy?
There would be
And you think yes, because
138
of
billion
student debt.
dollars that would have been taken out of young people's pockets
Hmm.
instead of letting them keep that money in their pockets and go out and spend it on things driving up inflation.
Okay.
And look, I don't know the ramifications of that. I don't know how much inflation that caused. I do know that
Hmm.
we're having massive inflation, right?
We are.
So now's the time not to be forgiving debt, right? We've agreed on that at various times.
When did Biden forgive the student debt?
I just looked up 138 billion.
No, I know, but I'm saying like what year was it? Because wasn't it like in the second or third year of his term? It wasn't like right after like COVID. It wasn't right when he became president.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm hyper skeptical of this. I think that's kind of silly. I
So
thought, I
so
mean,
you don't think that had any effect on
it
inflation
might
at
have, no,
all?
I'm sure it had an effect. I just don't think it
Okay.
was a substantial effect.
Why are they Do you agree that young people spend more money than older people?
On average, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I thought you
Well,
were going to say, I mean, the argument I think would be more valid than this argument would have been, would Trump have given out that final COVID stimulus check that the Biden administration gave out? I think that'd
hmm.
have more of an impact on the situation.
How much was the final COVID stimulus? How much how much was the COVID stimulus altogether? Well, I guess a lot of it was given out by
It
Trump,
was
right?
1,400, I think.
Well, I mean, how many billions?
Well, yeah, well, I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, just to
Well, no, but that
to
was
the
at the
student debt
time.
forgiveness.
Yeah, but that was at the time when, like, right when the inflation was happening, where the student debt forgiveness is happening over the span of 2 years from 2022 to 2024.
So the COVID stimulus was 814 billion.
Okay, so that's way more. Was that the
Yeah.
total? Was that the total, or was that just the last check?
I more than no, I think that's all of it. About 500 million payments totaling 814 billion in financial
Right.
relief to households
Okay. Well, I
impacted
mean,
by
if
the
we just
pandemic.
divide that, well, it wasn't the same because the last one was the most, wasn't it? The first one was 1,200, the second one was 600, and the last one was 1,400.
So what is it, like 1/6 of the COVID stimulus is the debt relief for
Right. Yeah.
for college kids?
Yeah.
Okay. So
COVID stimulus inflation.
another 20% on inflation.
No, because again, the majority of inflation was not from the COVID stimulus, it was from the lockdown.
Are you in favor of
No.
giving relief to people who actually have like a college degree over
No,
giving
I'm not.
relief
I
to
said from the
middle
beginning,
class?
I was never in favor of the student debt relief for kids.
Right. Okay, good. Me neither.
Yeah.
It's highly regressive because it caused a bunch of inflation that the middle class is ending up paying for.
Right, but you would agree that the majority of inflation has nothing to do with the government policy of any of this giving people money, but was from just, well, I guess the government policy of lockdown, which caused all these companies to basically lay off, everything to slow down, supply chains to dwindle, and then suddenly everything explodes open. You have all these people that now want to spend money. And so there's just this huge amount of demand and a much lower amount of supply than's ever been, probably in my lifetime.
Yes, but increasing the money supply makes it worse,
I understand.
obviously.
I agree
Yeah.
with that, but that's what I'm saying. Like that process is probably at least, I don't know, like the bulk 75, 80% of the inflation.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay, if you want to say that, okay, if Trump was president and he didn't do the student debt relief, I don't know, there would have been 10% less inflation maybe in
Maybe
terms
it
of the
opens
money
up
supply,
faster too. I mean, there was a
5%
bunch of
less.
lingering, like, are we going to open up? Are we not going to open up? Remember?
Maybe, who knows? But I don't know if that would have made much of a difference in terms of the economy.
Opening up faster? You don't think
Yeah.
that would have made a big difference?
No, because once everything had been closed for like a year, does it like if everything's been closed for a year versus a year and a half or a year and a quarter, right? It's not going to make that much of a difference in terms of like once you close down, everything's going to need that time to ramp up back again. It doesn't matter if it's closed for that extra bit of time.
Yeah, but if it takes 3 months to ramp up and you start 3 months earlier, you're like,
No, well,
your
you
supply
might
chains
come
are opening
out
up
of
quicker.
well, actually, it wouldn't matter for two reasons. Number one, even if we ramped up when we're talking about supply chains, we're talking about global supply chains. So even if America ends this lockdown quicker, that's not going to help us get shipping goods from across, the ocean faster.
The global supply chains are related to the local supply chains, right? Because if you're some sort of manufacturer and you need a certain amount
Right.
of
There's a
steel to
call for
produce
demand. Right.
whatever, yeah.
Yes.
So, but you all of a sudden you cut off, you're like, I don't need the steel now because we're shut down. We can't produce anything. Well, now the steel manufacturer's like, oh shit, we got to
No,
fire
but if you
everyone.
have, well, first of all, there's two issues. Number one, even if we open up 3 months sooner, yeah, you could say, okay, we'll get out of this, whatever the economic situation is, will resolve itself 3 months sooner. It's not going to change the rate of inflation. It's just going to maybe make it resolve 3 months sooner. That's number one. Number two, even if it closes down 3 months sooner, you're going to have a situation where, okay, demand is going to start to ramp up in America faster. And maybe that will incentivize other countries or other businesses around the world to start opening up. But if their governments are telling them, no, you still have to be shut down, it could actually make inflation worse because then you're going to have all this demand and then you're going to have 3 extra months of hyper demand with no production, with less production. So you could actually have a far worse inflationary effect if you open up sooner. The rest of the world hasn't opened up.
I got you. Because the suppliers are still closed down.
Right. And so now you have the flood of demand that comes from the opening up is like it comes at a much worse time for America.
Yeah. So look, let me ask you, what did you
Well,
see?
you agree with that, right? Like that's definitely a potential if you opened up too
Oh yeah,
soon.
yeah, yeah. You gotta coordinate the supply chains. Like you can't have the last link in the chain open. Well, technically, you would want the last link in the chain to open first, because then it could get primed up and then go to the next link in the chain. So yes, if they just come up randomly, you're going to get all sorts of bottlenecks in the production
Right.
chain. And look, a lot of the Inflation Reduction Act was to address this. Like a lot of companies got super used to like on demand supplying, right? They
Hmm.
would barely order any, they wouldn't keep any in stock. They would just on demand, they wanted whatever widget it was that they needed in their production process. And once COVID came along, that kind of all got messed up, and everyone started
Right.
realizing, well, this is a very fragile production system, right? We can't
Hmm.
necessarily do this,
Right.
right? We can't have parts manufacturers manufacturing parts halfway across the world to order, right?
Hmm.
Our cars are going to be shut down because we need some tiny little gizmo, and then the whole car is not working. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
now things seem to be fixed, up and running. But so let me ask you, what in the in all the Kamala Harris stuff that you listened to made you think that she was qualified to run the economy?
I never said that she was.
Oh, okay. Okay. Look, I'm asking.
I don't think Kamala is. So the point that I'm going to make when I bring up these clips is I don't think Kamala, as I said, I don't think Kamala is some big genius whatsoever. But I see there's a marked difference. She seems like a normal person who has a range of topics that she has a knowledge of and is interested in and motivates her. It's like she talks a lot about trying to stop recidivism, and her policies of stopping recidivism is to, make children go to school and to go after parents that are allowing their kids to basically just skip school indefinitely, and to try to solve the bottleneck, try to solve crime preemptively by making sure that people get an education. And also, she talks about she has some kind of program to try to give prisoners, some kind of job skills so that when they get out of prison, they actually have some way of making a living without going back to crime. And she claims, I don't know, I didn't fact check any of this, but she claims that whatever program she implemented had some massive decrease in recidivism in the county or the city wherever it was established.
Yeah, I was
So
curious about that.
right. But my whole point is you listen to her talking about this stuff, like, and it's just such a far cry from what we're getting now. It's just, I feel like it's a complete, like it's a night and day thing. No, well, I shouldn't say night and day because she still has some issues. She still does talk too slow. She still does bring up like annoying, personal stories about her parents. So this is obviously part of her personality. She's been doing this, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, she's been
She
talking
still,
about lawns for 15 fucking years.
right. She still has her annoying jackhammer laugh that drives you crazy. But she has those flaws, but then she has the things you would expect a politician who's pushing a policy to have, which is let me explain the policy, let me explain the problems in the community, let me explain how this solves the problems. Like, oh, this is a person who at least gives the appearance that they've thought about something and how to solve an issue. Right. She sounds like what you would expect a standard politician to sound like, as opposed to this just let me say platitude, 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 platitude. Now, I did notice in a lot of these interviews that when she seems to be talking about something she doesn't maybe have a lot of knowledge or experience of, she then starts to dip into the platitude stuff that we'd expect to hear or that we'd hear from modern Kamala. So it kind of paints a picture in my mind of like, okay, she just not care about certain topics enough to know in depth about them, or is it just this like fear to say anything that wasn't workshop? Because she doesn't seem very nervous in any of these old interviews or anything, like the way that she does now in terms of how she's talking. Like it doesn't seem like she has like a fear of public speaking or anything.
Did you catch the clip where she said be sweet? Like if things are going bad, just be sweet?
I don't remember that now.
I thought it was funny because
It's
just
funny because
that
of the Mormon
the
thing.
documentary, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Her
right.
she talks about people running for office and how it's really all about raising money, that you have to get over your fear of
Yes.
asking people for money. Did you see that? I don't know if
I
that's
did see
in
that.
the
That was
thing.
in she talks about the fear of asking to raise money. She also talks about that people are too afraid to try new things because if they try something new and it fails, it like their whole reputation becomes marred on this one policy or this one program. And
Yeah.
so people won't accept. And then if someone does do something new and it fails, people won't change course and accept that it failed because they're afraid of this reputational damage.
Yeah, that's completely intelligent.
Right. Well, so I'm
So,
saying I'm hearing this. I'm like, okay, this is all true. I mean,
what is your opinion of the trauma theory of psychology, that if people have unaddressed trauma, that it will come back into their lives and hurt them?
um, so I agree 100% with Jordan Peterson's take on all this, which is that, he talked about, and I think he talked about it in the clip that we watched on Sunday, where he was saying, you had the behavioralists kind of come along and they figured out ways to sort of help people, you know, grow stronger by facing their fears, facing their anxieties through, very limited, very controlled environmental sessions. And then you'd have the psychoanalysts come along and they'd say, no, 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 that's not going to solve anything because you're not really solving the underlying psychoanalytic thought process there. So it's just going to creep up somewhere else. But then Jordan Peterson says, well, that doesn't seem to be the case, is that once you become stronger at one thing, you kind of have your body, or your mind, I should say, has an overall effect of becoming stronger everywhere else. And so I think that's my big problem with the pure. Now, I don't know how many therapists are like this nowadays, but I have a big problem with pure psychoanalytic or pure cognitive therapy, because I don't, or pure talk therapy. I don't think any of that shit works. I think bringing stuff up can be fine, but you need to have some sort of behavioral approach where you're actually helping someone, condition themselves to be stronger. Otherwise, you just bring up a bunch of bad shit and then they doesn't help anything. Now, I think it can almost make things worse, because then now they have their headspace can be dominated or even paralyzed by thinking about all this trauma that they had in the past.
Yeah, look, I completely agree with you. And it seems as though Kamala Harris buys into that trauma theory of psychology, which I think has been totally uh, proven incorrect.
Well,
And not only that, she
mhm.
buys into it and is in the criminal justice system where it can really do some damage. That wrong model of human psychology.
I don't remember her saying that. The part that I heard, the clips that I heard when she would bring this up was just about how, um, like trauma, whether it be a little kid whose, parents are homeless, or a little kid who goes to sleep to gunfire every night, like that creates psychological problems that will then manifest down the road through them committing crime. But it's not really like she wasn't really making a statement about like how to cure that with psychotherapy or something.
She specifically brings up the trauma theory of psychology, though,
Hmm.
that unaddressed trauma will hurt people further down the road. And
Well,
she
that's
talks
true.
about
I mean,
mental
yeah,
health.
you're right.
She talks about mental health interventions, which I can only think would mean some sort of talk therapy.
So I say it depends on the trauma will hurt you down the road. That's like 100% true for most people. The question that, I'm talking about is just how do you fix it? And that's where I think is more people differ on how to fix the issue.
Right. Yeah. Look, and I would love to ask her about this stuff specifically.
Hmm.
And I would love to do, like, if she's written any work. The problem with the works, like, we looked it up before the stream. When she's Attorney General of California, she basically has a staff of 1,100 lawyers and 3,700 non-attorney personnel, right?
Hmm.
So she comes up with a paper that she's writing about um, this trauma theory. She probably didn't write it. So a lot of other people underneath her might have slipped a bunch of bad psychology in there, and she's just signing off on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, she wrote a book that was kind of interesting, like in 2014. That was, I assume, goes into this that we didn't read or couldn't really find access to on the internet, which was like some sort of smart on crime book that she
Right.
wrote.
I'll probably end up reading it
Right.
just
But then even
because.
then, it's like, okay, but the question be, okay, if we read that, would we have any proof that she actually wrote it as opposed to it being, a ghost written project?
Yeah, but she'd at least sign off on it. You would
Right.
assume that
Right.
she believes the things in it. And if it has
Yes,
a
of
bunch of,
course.
we're going to sit criminals down and do talk therapy with them to heal them of their childhood trauma, I'm going to think, okay, well, this is bullshit. This is
Right.
a
Well,
bad
she didn't.
strategy.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, in the clips that I saw, I didn't hear her say anything that made me think she was suggesting that criminals should go to psychoanalytic talk therapy in order to fix their problems.
I mean, she's talking about the recidivism program, but I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, but
Do you know
she was talking
what the
about giving
recidive program
people.
is in detail?
Well, when I heard her talking about it, she was talking about. I thought she was talking about giving people job skills and stuff.
Right.
So
That's good.
yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. So, and then she has this, she's like totally against the death penalty, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, she said she
And
was against the death penalty, but she would still um
enforce the law. Yeah,
enforce the
exactly.
law, which gives people a death penalty in California for certain crimes.
Sure, but
Yeah.
the underlying philosophy of why she's against the death penalty just doesn't sit right with me. So,
I didn't hear, and I didn't see a clip where she explained her philosophy of why she was against it. I just heard
well,
her
I
say
looked
that
it
she was
up.
against it. What was
I
her,
looked
what
up a
was
paper that she wrote on the
what'd she
death
say?
penalty. Well,
She wrote a paper on the death penalty?
there was something written out of her office about the
That's
death
interesting.
penalty. Yeah.
Right.
It's really short. It might just be a press release.
Mm-hmm.
But it gave me the impression that she cares more about the the criminals than she does about the actual family members, which doesn't sit well with me. Also, in a position where you're going to be president of the United States, don't you think like people are going to have to be put to death with
Mm-hmm.
that lethal fighting force that she's bragging about all the time?
Okay. It's weird because like besides the death penalty thing, which I know you have a very strong stance on the death penalty that I don't
Yeah, look, I'm
100%
pro
that I
death
don't
penalty.
right, I
Yeah.
know. And I'm not anti-death penalty either. Um, but you're like very much on it in terms of the
Yeah, the family.
of doing
You
it so
should
that the family has
Yeah,
some sort of peace or something.
some cop
Um,
got killed and she wouldn't even
right,
pursue the death penalty on the guy that killed him.
right. But what is so again? Well, two things. Number one, when I'm listening to these old interviews, there's nothing that I'm listening to that indicates that she has any sort of soft on crime view of the world at all. It's almost like the opposite. Is that
Well,
she's
not pursuing the
constantly
death penalty on
trying
a
to
cop killer is soft on
well,
crime.
hold on. Okay. Someone could not be in favor of the death penalty because they feel like for two reasons. Number one, they either feel like A, there's a lot of people that get accused of crimes that then they feel like get found to be innocent later. And so they want to give people that option, number one. Or number two, people have a philosophical belief that, humans can change and thus you should allow them to have that capacity to change or something. Right.
Yeah, look, accidents will happen. I don't
Right.
think
But what I'm saying is, I
look,
don't think you can draw when someone says soft on crime, you're usually talking about a host of policies that paint a picture of sort of someone wants to do criminal justice reform in order to make it easier for people to get out of prison and blah 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 blah. And I'm listening to all these old interviews, and it's literally the opposite. Her whole thing is there's too much recidivism, there's too much soft on crime policies that are letting people in and out of the prisons, and we have to figure out a way to fix this. So that's why I'm saying I don't think it doesn't seem fair to me at all to cast her positions, when she was attorney general as like a soft on crime person just because she doesn't like the death penalty.
okay. Well, I'm specifically talking about it in the case of
Mm-hmm.
like pursuing foreign policy with a mind towards preventing terrorism. Like if you're in the mindset that you don't even want to uh, pursue the death penalty on a cop killer in your own country, what makes you think she's going to pull the trigger on some terrorist halfway around the world?
Well, nowadays, I don't know. I feel like she just kind of does whatever she will do to win. I don't know how much of what she stands for has anything to do with what she actually believes in. So,
Okay. Do
but
were you
did she say why? What was her position on why who is this cop killer they're talking about? Did she say why she doesn't want to give this guy the death penalty?
I'm not sure. You'd have to look at the article.
Because I'm looking, it's like she made a comment. Now, doesn't seem like it should apply to the cop killer about how she said that she wouldn't seek the death penalty for someone who had a third strike because he had three strikes law, third strike for a non-violent offense. Number one, that's all it says. Yeah, she would not never seek the death penalty for a third strike offense. Oh wait, no, I never. No wait, hold on, misreading it. She said she would never seek the
Yeah.
death penalty, period, or a third strike for a non-violent offense. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was the thing? I'm trying to
She's against
find
the
the
third
thing.
strike law, but
Right. Well, no, she said she was against the third strike law for non-violent offenses, which I don't think is an unreasonable position.
yeah, look, I don't think that's an unreasonable position either. I'm not saying she has all her positions are unreasonable. Like
Right.
I'm just saying I don't like her position on the death penalty and it seems like a hindrance for someone who's pursuing commander in chief of the United States military. So,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, obviously, you're gonna have to, if you're in charge of the military, you have to fucking kill people, right? Or sign off on people to be killed.
right. Look, and I was super surprised by how much there was identity politics, like how much identity politics really is part of her being, her persona. How do you feel about that?
I didn't feel that way. I thought it was the opposite. The only
Oh,
time I saw
really?
her, she gave one of the speeches I listened to was, or she had a speech she gave that was specifically at like a girls' school. I don't know if that you're referring to. And obviously that one was about like, women's issues because she was giving some speech at a girls' school or something. But the other speeches I heard, I didn't she didn't seem like she was like dipping too much in the identity politics stuff. It felt more like the sense I always got from her listening to her was when she was running for prosecutor, that is. I don't know if you're talking about when she was running for Senate, maybe things changed because I didn't listen to any of her running for Senate speeches. These are all when she's running for prosecutor speeches and before that. And everything was kind of felt like it was centered around, okay, Democrats have this vibe of being soft on crime. I have to sort of buck against that while still advocating for changes to the criminal system that I think would be beneficial to society as a whole.
Yeah, no, she constantly is aware of the soft on crime, tough on crime dynamic.
Right.
So, yeah, I get that. But I mean, I live in California. I mean,
Sure.
I'm dealing with Glass Cone, the district attorney in Los Angeles, not pursuing tough on crime policies all over Los Angeles that have criminals running amok. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure she's going to be better as a commander in chief.
Yeah, but again, changing the whataboutism, you have to compare it to your binary choice of how does this all relate to Donald Trump?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to find this. I'm trying to find something that explains her position on the death penalty, and I can't find it. All I just find is that she says she's just not in favor of it. But it's not really an explanation of why that is exactly.
The death penalty thing, she goes into it. She says it's because sometimes the system makes mistakes, which
Oh, okay.
look, I am
Mm-hmm.
I am conscious of that. Like if you're pursuing the death penalty on something that's all circumstantial evidence, like what the hell's going on here, right? But if a guy like literally pulls a gun out and shoots a cop through his car window, it's not really, you're not dealing with circumstantial evidence at that point, right?
Yeah, like if you have
If you
some
have
level of
film, if it's
direct,
on,
right?
yeah,
If it's
like
on
a
some, like
school
it's not really a
shooter,
question. Yeah.
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 So, but she doesn't seem conscious of the fact that it's really like the death penalty is really for the family at that point.
Right. Yeah,
It's
but that.
really so the family can
Mhm.
sleep at night knowing that that motherfucker is no longer walking the earth.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because most people, when I hear people defend it, they don't really bring up. You're like the only one I've heard that like that says like that's the reason why you should have the death penalty is for the mental comfort of the victim's family. Like that usually doesn't even enter the equation because I did find some video
Okay,
that's
fine.
no,
But
that's fine. No, I'm saying it's
I'm
a
the
good.
one making a decision here
That's
on
fine.
who
It's
I'm
a
going to vote
good.
for.
I
So I think
understand
it's
that. What I'm saying is
important
it's
for
a.
me
Okay.
to look at the way I look at things, not the way someone else
No,
looks
no,
at
no, no.
things.
I'm not doing this to attack you. I'm doing this to say, like, in terms of the national conversation, I would be curious to see how how she or anyone who's against that penalty would react to your argument because it's not something that's ever brought up in these situations.
I'm sure it is brought up. I'm sure just because you've never heard it doesn't mean other
Okay.
people don't bring it up.
Whenever I've looked into people arguing about the death
Death
penalty,
penalty for the family.
so I'm looking up, I found some video that's
Victims'
has
families.
footnotes of
What does
what
the
her
death penalty
position
do
was,
for the family?
and it was,
Statements of murder victims' family members. Why do you think the family comes out and speaks at the trial? Like you don't think it's about the family member?
I
This
never,
came up on
okay,
on
I never said
another
it
live
wasn't.
stream and everybody went completely autistic on me as if the like in these trials the family doesn't come forward and speak during the sentencing portion of the trial.
Okay, that's I'm not attacking your position or attacking the credibility of your position at all, right? The reason that everyone went autistic on you is because it's not an argue. It's like your voting argument. It's not an argument people are used to hearing, so it seems unusual to them. That's all. That's the only point I was making.
There is a bunch of articles attacking the family for seeking the death penalty. I'm sure
Right.
done by left wing, soft on crime leftists who could care less about the
Okay.
family member.
Right. So anyway, I found someone who's claiming that they have, it's not direct quotes, so I don't know, but they're saying it's kind of what you said. She doesn't like the death penalty because it's the risk of wrongful convictions. Also, the argument that she doesn't think it's a deterrent to crime, which is sort of one of the most common things we hear against about this. So
The advocate, the advocates for for human rights, capital punishment, victims and their families deserve better. It's like, uh, look there. Why are if families are not arguing in favor of the death penalty so that they can seek closure, why is Google filled with counter arguments against that position?
I didn't say that. That is why families in those situations. You're correct. That's why families in those situations would want the death penalties because they feel
Well,
like it
then
would provide them with
how is it?
closure. Yes,
How is it an unusual argument then?
because it's usually when you're talking about. I've heard in the past many debates and arguments going back and forth where people advocating for the penalty or the death penalty or not. And usually the argument of it makes the families feel better is something that like gets said and then just kind of thrown out as like not something that anyone ever addresses in those conversations.
Yeah, because they don't care about the family members.
Right, because they don't because they're looking at it from a broader societal level. They're basically saying, well, that's, too bad that the families might feel better, but they feel like there's a more important reason as to why they would be against the death penalty. And then people that are arguing for the death penalty, instead of arguing, saying, well, no, fuck you, this is a perfectly valid reason, they kind of seem to get drawn into, the other arguments that are brought forward.
Well, I'm not getting drawn into those other
Okay, that's
arguments.
fine.
I'm
I'm
just
not
saying.
I'm not
I'm
against the
saying.
death
I'm
penalty.
saying
So
no. Fuck you.
right.
Look,
Okay.
look. You can Google search death penalty for the family,
Right.
and it's just reams and reams and reams of leftists trying to get people like trying to say fuck the family,
Mhm.
fuck those family members that lost their loved one that was killed by this murderous fucking piece of shit, and that person should live. Like, it's literally disgusting. These
Mhm.
articles disgust me. All these people simping for murderers sicken me.
I was
And
saying,
I just look, I don't, why are these people making these arguments again and again and again? Oh, it doesn't help the family. It doesn't help the family. It doesn't help the family. If the main argument for the death penalty isn't so that the family can sleep at night, like what
well,
other
you
argument is there?
specifically Googled the specific thing, you're gonna find that the information you're looking for. So I don't know if that's indicative of how often this argument gets made or argued in public.
But no, you made a specific claim. You said nobody makes this argument. That
I'm
was what
saying
you said.
I
You
said
said
okay,
nobody. This is like a unique argument to
okay.
me.
You're right. I shouldn't say nobody. I should say I think it's one
Who?
of the more unusual arguments that
What is so
Masons raises.
unusual about it? Like, what are the
Okay.
other arguments then? What
Okay,
if
I'm
this
just
is an
totally wrong,
unusual?
and I don't know what I'm talking about. I really don't care about this subject
Well, look,
at
if you
all.
haven't even looked into the death penalty,
Okay.
like, why are you making that kind of accusation?
I have. I have looked
Okay,
into it, and I have
so
heard
what are
these
the
arguments go
arguments?
back and forth,
What are the
you
arguments in
know,
favor of the death penalty?
to prevent, usually it's something along the lines of trying to prevent crime and a sense of moral justice for the community at large.
Okay.
And also there's usually a money aspect to it about, why you waste so much money and energy housing, these evil criminals and all this other stuff, additional violence that is committed by individuals once they're in prison. I think the issue here, again, this is just my experience of it. The issue here is that usually when people, and I think this is why it doesn't come up so much, usually when people have these arguments about death penalties, they're having them from a more broader, like wide ranging societal lens. They're not really looking at it from the individual family perspective, which again, I'm not saying is an invalid way to look at the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is generally the argument against the soft on crime left is that they're more interested in the systemic injustice for murderers and rapists than they are for the actual family victims, the family of the victims of murderers and rapists.
My
That's the argument.
only
Yeah.
problem is that I don't think it's fair to say that if someone, just if they're not in favor of the death penalty, makes them soft on crime. That's the one fucking thing that they're just not in favor of.
But
Especially if they're not
it
in
is
favor of
fair.
it. Okay.
It is fair if she like is not really even concerned about the family members. Right?
No, because if the main, that's why I'm trying to find what the fuck her argument is. Because if her main argument is I'm against the death penalty because too many people I think were wrongly convicted and then die, then that completely validates the argument because it's nothing to do with fear. Like, who cares if the family feels better if the innocent person is killed?
Yeah, but you can deal with that and still be in favor of the death penalty. You just do it in certain cases where circumstantial evidence is not the main thrust of the case.
Well, I don't know. It's that's one of those things. I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I was listening to all these interviews. It's interesting to me that I've don't like that seems like the solution to this would be okay, death penalty should only be accessible to specific levels of evidentiary findings in law, but I actually don't know if you could structure the law that way because I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Rubicross, someone else knows. I don't know if there's other crimes where they say, well, the penalty of the crime depends on the evidence against you. Because on one hand, that's sort of like attacking the very notion of, guilty beyond a, reasonable doubt, right? Because that's supposed to be like, oh, you're just guilty. So then, like, doesn't it seem weird from a kind of philosophical legal sense if they say, okay, well, if we think you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but we also think you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt because, we have a video of you doing the crime, like then you get some sort of extra level of penalty. So that might be why that doesn't exist. Because I agree with you, it's something that I'm fine with, but I just don't really see. I don't know if there's any state that has a law like that.
That that you can differentiate. I mean, don't you differentiate when you charge based on what the facts of the case are? Like it's up to prosecutorial discretion, right? The prosecutor decides, am I going to pursue the death penalty in this case based on the amount of evidence that they have? And if they have incontrovertible evidence like video or something like that, then hell yeah, they should pursue the death
I don't know
penalty.
if that. I don't know if that's the case. I think usually when they decide what charges to pursue, it's not based on. Well, no, they'll.
Yes, it
Well, let me wait.
is.
Hold
There's
on.
wide
Wait,
latitude
wait,
in
wait, 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 wait,
prosecute.
wait. In terms of like deciding whether to charge someone or a specific crime or not is dependent on what evidence they think exists for the person, right? But wait, hold on. But once they say, okay, we're going to charge you with X, Y, Z in terms of what penalties that is accrued for that, which is, I believe, up to the judge's discretion. That is not based on, I don't believe that's based on anything about whether there's evidence of the crime, because then that's sort of calling into question the fact that if you say they're guilty, you're saying, well, are they really guilty? Because you think they're guilty, but you don't think they're guilty enough to give them the death penalty. So you're sort of calling into question the entire process when you do that.
Based on the evidence.
Right. If you're saying, well, if someone says that they watched you kill someone, then we say, okay, you can get life in prison. But if we have a video of you killing someone, then you get the death penalty.
Let's look into this cop killing case, okay? Because it's relevant to Kamala Harris. Everybody's talking about it. Like, why did she choose not to seek the death penalty?
Well, that's why I'm
Like, the
trying to
whole
find
entire
something where
police department wanted her to seek the death penalty, right?
this is
It's like,
why I'm trying to find something where she
right.
explains why the fuck she's against the death penalty in the first place. That'd
Because
be the
what
answer to this
the
question.
articles that I read on it
Right.
made it seem like she was fundamentally against the death penalty, and that's why she didn't decide to
But
seek the death
why
penalty,
is she
which
against the
means
death
it's
penalty?
prosecutorial discretion. Look, and
Okay.
we get in tons of fights with our Los Angeles County District Attorney because various gang members get caught in drive-bys and whatnot, and the community's like, charge the fucking shit out of him, right? And he's like, nah, I'm not going to charge him like that. Like, it's totally up to him. Like, the family members are going, look, my fucking kid died. Charge
Right.
the fucking shit out of him. And he's going, nah, systemic injustice.
No, but okay. Wait. if there's a prosecutor who says that they're not going to charge someone or they're going to give someone a lighter sentence because they believe in systemic injustice or some bullshit, then yeah, you are 100% correct, and that is a soft on crime approach.
Look at
If someone
Glasgow's website. It's great. You'll love it.
if someone says, I'm fine throwing someone in jail forever, but I'm against the death penalty because I think too many innocent people get caught up in the system, that's not a soft on crime argument at all.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Then we just have
It's
different
totally.
definitions of soft on crime. To me, soft on crime means what you were saying. You have a general view of the world where where you empathize more with criminals and say, okay, well, if the criminal did something bad, it's not their fault, it's society's fault. So therefore, I should be softer on them. That's what I think of a soft on crime is.
And that's what is exactly going on with the death penalty.
No, but if you think that innocent people are getting caught up in the system, you're not empathizing with the criminal. You're saying, I think too many innocent people, by my experience or by the history looking at caseloads, get out of prison once like DNA evidence shows that, they couldn't commit the crime or something.
Just, you understand that you can fix that problem and still be in favor of the death
I don't
penalty.
know if you can. I don't know if you can fix that. That's what I just said for like 5 minutes ago.
It's very easy. Let me explain to you how you fix it.
explain it to
Okay.
me.
Super simple, right?
Right.
You have incontrovertible evidence that this guy is a killer. Okay. You have it on video. Right?
Right.
Okay. There you go. Boom. Done. You
No.
can still be in favor of the death penalty, right? Nobody is getting caught up on a death penalty charge if they have eyewitness testimony or circumstantial evidence. Boom, you still have the death penalty and you don't get 1 in 8 people being wrongly charged.
As I said, I just gave an argument about why I said I don't know if this is even legally possible.
Look, we make the laws. Do you realize that? These laws, we decide what they are and we write them. Do you agree that the law can be changed?
To an extent.
Do you think this could be the law, or is it physically impossible for this to be the law?
I don't know. I said I don't know if this could be the law because you're calling to question the entire philosophy of someone being guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which you haven't addressed. You've ignored my entire argument and just repeated yourself.
It is physically impossible to make this a law, though, correct?
I don't. You could make it a law, and then the judicial system could say this is actually unconstitutional.
The innocent. So you're saying in order to preserve innocent until proven guilty, you have to pretend that you have no evidence in the case.
Okay, let me restate my argument because it's very clear that you were not listening to it. I don't know if you're reading something else. Okay, what I said was that now I don't know if this is the case. And if you want to research this, or if there's a lawyer in chat who knows about this or something, feel free to weigh in. But what I said was my guess, because I've never heard of a state that does this, and I could be wrong. If there's a state that does this, please bring it forward, okay, and show it to me. And if a state does this, where they say, depending on the evidence against you, even within a charge, like if you get charged with murder, depending on the level of evidence, we will create a harsher sentence. Okay. If there's a state that does that, please just post a link, show it to me. And if I say, okay, that would solve the problem. But what I'm saying is the reason why I would be questioning whether that can be possible is because if you do that, essentially what you're saying is that there's different levels of guilt. You're saying if a jury finds you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, because a bunch of people testify that you killed someone, that's a different verdict than a jury saying we found you guilty beyond reasonable doubt because your DNA or a video showed you commit a crime. And if you create two different versions of guilty, you're calling into question the entire philosophy of our jury system.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying I don't know if what you're saying can even exist.
Well, simplify your argument a bit. You're saying there's a distinction between DNA and video.
Okay, when a jury renders you guilty, they don't say, well, for a criminal offense, okay, they don't say we think that there's a 51% chance that you're guilty. They say, no, we believe there's a 99.9% chance that we believe that this person is guilty, right?
Right.
Okay. So what you're saying is that now you want to create two different platforms of guilty where they can say, well, there's a 99.9% chance that you're guilty, but also there's a 99.9% chance that you're guilty, and we have a video of you doing it. Right. So
Every case has a different level of evidence, though, obviously.
I understand that.
Yeah. Okay. Some cases have more evidence than other cases, right?
Right.
Some charges they plead down because the evidence is so terrible. So what are you saying?
Okay. The philosophy, because the philosophy, when you find someone guilty of a crime, is just not supposed, the judicial system is not supposed to say, well, we just kind of, we think that you committed a murder, so we're going to take away your freedom and put you in prison for life, right? That's not the philosophy of the judicial system. It's you were found guilty beyond reasonable doubt, period. Right?
I understand that. Yes.
Okay, so if you're
Obviously.
saying,
Like
so you
everything
understand
you're
that if,
saying is completely
okay,
obvious.
so, well, apparently it's not.
I'm not setting out some sort of two-tier justice system where
You
there's like
are, because
guilty
you're
and
saying
super
if
guilty.
that is what you're saying. You're saying if there is video evidence of someone committing a crime, you've now entered the realm of super guilt.
When do they seek the death penalty or seek life in prison? When do they do that?
It's
at the end of the
on
trial or the beginning of the trial?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, so what differentiates them seeking the death penalty or not seeking the death penalty?
I believed it was on the basis of what
whether or not they're super guilty or like not so guilty. No,
it's my understanding is that it's based on what they've been accused of doing,
heinousness of the crime.
Exactly.
Yes.
The heinousness of the crime, not the
but they
evidence.
Could also, since there's wide prosecutorial discretion there, they could also take into account the depth and breadth of the evidence. They could easily do that. Why couldn't they? Could. Yeah, exactly. So look, and Kamala Harris took into account the evidence for this case with a cop, and she said, look, I don't want to pursue the death penalty. And everyone's like, why? Why wouldn't you pursue the death penalty? Look, open and shut case. We got this guy dead to rights. Well, philosophically, I don't think the death penalty is right. Like this might be one of the 1 in 8 cases where this guy didn't actually do it.
Well, that's why I said I would want to find something that explains what her position on the death penalty is, why it's just like a general, she's just against it 100% of the time, or were there cases where she says, I'm in favor of it sometimes, I'm in favor of other times? That's why I just said I don't know what her stance on this is, because the things that I've seen, they don't say it. She just gives a very general statement.
How does my position endanger the philosophy of innocent until proven guilty?
Because
how does it endanger that philosophy?
Because what you're essentially saying is, well, I'm going to put you in prison for life, and I'm only kind of certain you deserve it. Versus I'm going to kill you, I'm like 100% certain you deserve it.
It doesn't endanger that at all, because
that is what you're saying.
No, it doesn't. Look, you haven't even, these are all accusations at the time, right? You're seeking the death penalty or whatever charge you're seeking or whatever punishment you're seeking based on the heinousness of the crime, not whether or not the person did it or not.
Right.
So if the prosecutor wants to take a look, and this is what's so silly about this conversation in my eyes, is that obviously every single prosecutor looks at the amount of evidence that they have, right? They look at the amount of evidence that they have on whether or not they can even charge them, whether or not they can make it stick, right? If the evidence is airtight, I'm sure they go for higher punishments. They go for longer periods of time in jail. That just weighs in all the time. What makes you think that that's not standard?
Okay. So again, we're just talking past each other, not really addressing what I'm saying. I don't know the facts of this at all because I could be fundamentally completely wrong in that yes, they do weigh into this a consideration when deciding to do death penalty or not, or I could be completely correct and you could be completely wrong.
Okay.
And we're just gonna have to look it up, okay? Because I don't know. It's just kind of repeating ourselves again and
Well,
again isn't
if an
really going to solve
attorney
the issue.
wants to weigh in, but look, I don't want to jeopardize the whole philosophical underpinnings of the criminal justice system with my argument that we should take into consideration the family's wishes when there's an
Well, no,
airtight case against the guy who murdered them.
well, wait, hold on. Taking family's consideration is not the relevant factor. It's whether you're saying that there's extra evidence or not, or a specific type of evidence or not, creates
It
a
is
more airtight case.
it is a relevant factor at sentencing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the family speak. Why do they have the family speak to the court and to the judge and to the jury during sentencing?
I'm saying,
why does that happen?
I'm only saying relevant into what I'm saying, the argument I'm making. Yes, in terms of sentencing, usually the family, I'm assuming the family is what their opinion is considered by the
Of
judge
course
or
it
whoever.
is. Of course it is. This is why they drag them into the court and they make them speak to everyone. They tell the jury, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is going to be thrown in prison for life. I'm going to have to go to sleep every night knowing that this motherfucker is being paid with my tax dollars.
Says of the 27 states with death penalty, 25 require the sentence to be decided by the jury. 23 require a unanimous decision by the jury. So I have to look into what are the jury qualifications for deciding to do the death penalty or not. Anyways, I guess we
want
should
to read through some of these
even...
articles. Death penalty didn't help me heal after my mom was killed. USA Today. What do you think that's a? You think that's a propaganda piece by USA Today? I'm going to say it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think USA Today goes out and looks for the person that says, I am so happy that my mom's murderer is 6 feet under right now. I sleep well knowing that that motherfucker got what he deserved. Do you think USA Today goes out and seeks that opinion and publishes it in its prestigious newspaper? I don't think so. What do you think, Sitch? In all honesty,
I literally don't care.
No, it's
just so weird.
Think about it. Look, think about it. Think about it. Of course they don't. Of course they don't. They don't let that perspective get into their newspaper. They don't want that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the only perspective that they're going to let get into their newspaper is, oh my God, the death penalty is evil and it never hurt. It never helped anyone.
Let's just cut to the chase here. So is there even a point to us going through these clips? Because it doesn't matter. You're going to say, fuck Kamala Harris. I'm not voting for her because I just so fucking emotional about the death penalty issue that she can burn in fucking hellfire forever.
No,
because that's like where this conversation is going. Like, I don't know why we spent so much time on this issue.
I'm a little triggered just because you're like making some crazy argument that what I'm saying, like, questions the fabric of reality or something. When
I'm not making a crazy
argument.
I literally said, I don't know if the solution that you're talking about is legally possible, even though I agree with it on a philosophical level.
Okay, well, look, if you agree with me, you agree with me then.
No, but I said in the beginning, I said I agree that was something that would make sense and I feel comfortable doing that, but I don't know if that fundamentally violates the entire process of adjudicating whether someone is guilty or not. I don't, and I said I don't know the answer to that question.
So look, is it an emotional argument, right? For me to say if Kamala Harris is too timid to seek the death penalty in a cop killer case, that she may be apprehensive about killing terrorists overseas. Is that an emotional argument?
I don't think it's an emotional argument. I wouldn't think it's a viable argument now.
Okay.
I would
So
imagine
you
there's
you
lots
think
of
she
people that are against the death penalty and are seem to be totally fine with us funding Ukrainian soldiers to kill Russians or blowing up people in Iran or killing, Hamas. And those people will then turn around and say that they're against the death penalty. It just seems to be the way people kind of position themselves.
okay? So you think her death penalty argument is just for show, that it's not
I don't
really
know.
like
No,
she's
I'm not saying it's
catering
just for
to her
show. I just
voters. That could be the case. Look, that could definitely be the case.
there's if there's a person who's like, listen, I'm one of these people who is, Quaker. I completely believe in that, or I forget what it's called. There's some philosophy where you're like, you don't believe in ever taking anyone's life ever. Okay. If someone has that position, then I would agree, then obviously they can't be the
They
president of the
shouldn't
United
be running
States.
for
Right.
president.
I don't believe for a second that Kamala Harris has that Kamala Harris, there I'm saying it wrong. That Kamala Harris has that position. I've seen no evidence that she has some kind of position where the sanctity of life to her is the most important fucking thing ever, that she's not willing to push a button or tell someone to drone strike, a bunch of terrorists.
I and look, I didn't even write these down. I just wrote them down when we began the live stream. Just the things that are interesting to me about Kamala Harris and reasons not to vote for her. The death penalty is one reason, obviously, for me, but look, that's not decisive. So I'm interested. I didn't watch 5 hours of Kamala Harris content, like the boringest fucking content on the planet, because I'm not interested, because I don't want to make like a reasonable, rational decision,
Okay,
right?
what's what?
I'm
Okay,
not
but we
triggered
just
over her position.
we got sidetracked on all this stuff just because I said I don't think simply being against capital punishment automatically makes you soft on crime. I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay, look, we're just arguing over the definition of soft on crime, but I
Yes, we are.
disagree.
Okay.
I think, look, and I understand mistakes can be made, but for me, the whole idea is it's like saying, look, we need to get rid of automobiles because automobile accidents happen, right?
Hmm.
You only say that if you believe there is absolutely no utility to automobiles, right? There is massive utility to automobiles.
No, it's
I
if you
think there
think
is
the
massive
utility
utility. Yeah,
of the automobile outweighs the threat of people dying through automobile accidents, right?
right. Look, obviously, you do a
Yeah.
cost benefit analysis,
Right.
obviously, yeah. But the death penalty, I think they give short shrift because they don't care about the families. They don't give a fuck about the families. So, and I do. I think
Okay.
that they should give families more of a consideration.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm sure the family feels horrible when they've murdered the wrong guy.
Yeah, I mean that's not great, especially if they're the ones pushing for the death penalty.
But look, the
Okay, whatever. We
state
just
should step
move off
in.
the death penalty, please, God.
Well, look, I don't look, I don't understand how you can say that. Like, um, we have this disagreement, and then you back up to like, oh, I don't give a fuck about it.
Well, no,
Like,
it's just because we've spent an hour talking about the fucking death penalty.
because look, you're the one that drew it out. It wasn't me.
Okay.
It literally was. But anyway, so
Mr.
there's
Ubercross for $20. Thank you, Mr. Ubercross. Says there are potentially different kinds of guilt. There's a thing called an Alford plea. It means the defendant agrees there's sufficient evidence to be found guilty, but maintains they are innocent, kind of. Okay, but I don't know if that has anything. Well, I guess Mr. Ubercross' question is, and I don't know if you know this, because I don't know if you're a criminal lawyer. I don't remember if you're a criminal lawyer or civil lawyer. Can you have, does it make sense to construct a law where you say, well, we think you're guilty of murder, so we're going to sentence you in life in prison. But if we think you're guilty of murder and also have a video of you doing it, then you get the death penalty. Can you construct, or does it make sense? Are there states that have laws like that? Do you know? Because my understanding was the death penalty was based simply on, as you said, the heinousness level of the crime, right? Or something to that effect, not how 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 much evidence you think points to their guilt.
key 95 key for $5 says, can we just agree that the death penalty is based when it's people I don't like and move on?
There you go. I mean, I think we can. So
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people I don't like that I don't think deserve the death penalty, but
Right.
yeah.
Granel Vat, thank you so much for the $60. Says scale of punishment doesn't create a dual system. It allows for harsher punishments for more depraved offenders. Scale of, yeah, I agree with that. Off the top of my head, in Arkansas, first degree sexual offense is 20 degrees to life offense. The minimum punishment is 20 years, but if the court/jury finds defendant conduct is committing the crime, or if prior conviction warrants a harsher punishment, they can impose one as the defendant is of a particular danger to society at large. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. That makes perfect sense. But that's not the jury saying, well, we find you we're extra confident that you're guilty, so therefore we give you extra punishment, right? I guess that's the word, it's talking about like the confidence level of the verdict. So,
I mean, prosecutors should take. I mean, this is when they always accuse prosecutors of being corrupt, is when they're using shaky evidence and they know better,
right.
just to get a conviction. Like, I obviously
Right, but
people
usually
weigh
that's like you
the.
shouldn't charge them in the first place then. Not like you should go for a lesser, you should charge them and then go for a lesser sentence.
Yeah, but there should be, all this stuff should be mapped out. Well, I'm sure it is mapped out. I just think that the the confidence in the different levels of evidence, I think, is often misplaced. Like, I think people put too much confidence in eyewitness testimony when
I
I think
agree,
eyewitness
100%.
testimony
Yeah.
is bad. So
Right.
look, and I think adjusting the criminal justice system accordingly would be useful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like putting eyewitness testimony on par with video evidence, which I think probably happens. I think it shouldn't happen, right? Obviously, that shouldn't be the case,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
Ultimately, this is left in the hands of the jury, though. The jury is the one that determines what the fact claims are in the case.
Official team money for $20 says Kamala is, I keep there, I am saying it. Kamala isn't an idiot, just a wholly uninspiring, unimpressive candidate. I feel like Adam has already decided he doesn't like her, and now he's just searching for justification. If she was a decent candidate, it wouldn't be close. I mean, I agree with, if she was a decent candidate, it wouldn't be close, but we got what we got.
Right.
Um, Man, my
Well,
computer's like
look,
real laggy right now.
I'm looking for justification that she's qualified. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't I don't fucking like Trump, okay? Like, I'm going to have to vote for someone that I don't like. What's the difference?
Right. Okay. Anyways, so before we watch this Kamala stuff, I want to talk
Oh
about this
yeah.
Konstantin Kisin
I
tweet
know.
here. Okay.
How long have we been arguing for?
Like an hour.
Oh my god, an
So
hour and
I was
18
like
minutes.
getting frustrated, like move away from this. Okay. We didn't even watch any of these clips, which I don't know how long that's gonna take. Um and so Konstantin had this tweet. Let me see if I just lost it. Hold on, let me bring it up. A different Konstantin tweet up. Okay. He has a tweet. He says, "Some people criticize me for calling it the woke right, but I generally don't understand how they don't see it. The woke left claim that America, one of the most racially tolerant countries in the world, was the most racist country ever. The woke right claims America, one of the best governed countries in the world, treats its citizens worse than any other. It is true that there are racists in America, and it's true that America has problems when it comes to living up to its ideals on things like free speech. But this is just victimhood for clicks, and it's frankly pathetic, unpatriotic, and silly." And then he continued and said, "America is awesome. America has problems. America is better than almost every other country in the world. America isn't perfect, and the direction of the travel is not good. The direction we're going is not good. America can have a bright future if it adjusts course. America will have a bad future if it doesn't. All of these statements are true." Okay, so I agree with that 100,000%. I just want to add to it because I think what's going on here, I think there's an element or a way to explain this is sort of what's going on here. And so I said, The woke right is completely accurate. Both wokes constantly push the quote America bad lens because they want to destroy Western individual liberalism and replace it with a collectivist ideology. So the woke left, obviously, they push the America bad lens because they want to destroy Western individual liberalism and replace it with communism. And the woke right says America bad and wants to destroy Western individual liberalism and replace it with some weird form of post-liberal, neo-fascistic, some form of right-wing collectivist ideology. Right. And it's weird because when I wrote that tweet, there was a handful of people who responded like I was talking about libertarians for some reason. And I'm like, why would I be talking about libertarians? Libertarians want to preserve Western individualism and Western liberalism. They just think that,
Of
they're
course,
making the
yeah.
argument that America as a society has gone, has become too collectivist or has allowed too much government overreach or something, something, something. So it's very strange to me. I think I understand what's happening here, but it's very annoying to me that like I'll say something and a bunch of people who I'm not talking about come in and they're like, oh, why are you talking about libertarians? And it's like, I'm not talking about libertarians, just definitionally by the words that I'm using. But I think what's going on here, and this is kind of the insidious nature of this all, is that and someone on Twitter brought this up, Jay Sokaza brought this up, and I think it's a good point. They said, I call this parasitic propaganda. People like Nick Fuentes does this where he will use the term liberty, patriot, constitution, and drapes himself in Americana, but at the core, he wants to alter it fundamentally. To the unknowing Republican, these types seem like an ally, but they're the exact opposite. And I think that's exactly what's going on here, is that you basically had this problem, and this is sort of how the woke left sunk its claws into the mainstream left, was that they used all this terminology and language that would appeal to the moderate left, not, and these people, these liberals, have no fucking clue. They have no understanding that the woke left is really advocating for the destruction of liberalism and the implementation of socialism. And I think you have the same thing with the woke right. These people that are just constantly America is the most evil fucking place in the world, they're basically getting sucked down the same rabbit hole that the woke left was doing, where it's like, okay, you can believe that America has all these problems, you could believe that the institutions have all these problems, et cetera, but there are people that you think are friendly faces that are trying to drag you down that pathway for the nefarious reasons of drawing you down to some sort of anti-liberal philosophy at the end of the day. And people just aren't aware that's happening.
Right.
And that's sort of the difficulty of the argument is you can criticize America's institutions and say America has failing institutions, there's a bunch of problems with America, but still say I want the end goal to be Western capitalist democracy. And that's sort of the issue. Too many people run interference unknowingly for like the extremists because they think they get caught up in the critique.
I mean, the right is pretty open about it these days. I mean, they're sharing a bunch of Hitler memes and shit.
Well, they are much more open about it now, but it's weird because judging by people that respond to me, there's still a lot of people who are just completely unaware that this is happening.
It's difficult for me to imagine that moderate right people are like chiming in with the Hitler memes.
No, obviously, but you have like and this is part of why I think there was such this reaction to Daryl Cooper on Tucker Carlson's show is
Right.
Daryl
And
Cooper comes
he's the
on.
guy that basically was parroting Nazi propaganda.
Right. Even though he's not saying anything, he's not saying specifically like the Nazis did nothing wrong, but he's parroting Nazi propaganda in terms of saying, look at all these evil things Churchill did against the German people. Right. So it's a somewhat, and I don't know Cooper enough. I don't know if he's like a Nazi or anything like that. I don't know what's motivating him except the fact that he does not like, this is okay. This is what I think the problem is. Maybe this is the way to explain it. You have a bunch of people right now that say, okay, mainstream society has been taken over by a bunch of woke shit, so I can't trust anything. And then you have a bunch of bad actors or people that want to destroy democracy and replace it with some kind of weird neo-fascism, some sort of anti-liberal philosophy. And they come along and they say, you're right. The mainstream has been lying to you about everything that's going on. So therefore, you should also infer that that means the mainstream's been lying to you about your history, right? All the people you think were good were actually bad. The Allied powers in World War II were actually bad. And the reason you're in this woke thing in 2024 is because the Allied powers won in 1940, the 1940s, which is a
Right.
fucking retarded position because it's like, okay, well, we had 80 years, to get here. But and so it sucks. So it sucks people down that pathway. The same way the woke left would basically say all the heroes that you thought were good, George Washington, these founding fathers, they're all a bunch of, racist, horrible white people. So everything that you think is good is really bad. It's the same sort of effect. It's just going in it's going to the right instead of to the left.
Right. So, but Constantine is like anti-collectivist. So
Yeah, well,
he
he's in
doesn't
favor of
like the woke.
liberalism,
Yeah.
which is what, as Americans, is the founding idea of America is liberalism.
Yeah. Individual freedom,
Right.
individual rights.
It's disturbing to see, Tucker Carlson, who I do think is literally just a grifter, you know, becoming essentially this weird figurehead for the America Bad Right, where he is going to become the opposite of a gatekeeper, the funnel point to funnel people into anti-Western capitalist democracy philosophical ideas. And I
What
think
could he
it's,
do? The money was good.
I guess.
Hey, can flush his nation down the toilet for enough money, right?
Right. Now you said there's a clip where Jordan Peterson sort of talks about this. He uses
I
different language
guess.
and sort of a different idea, but
Okay, you want to play the clip?
well, I don't know what the time. I have it on Twitter. I don't know what you said. You found it in the video itself.
Yeah, I did. It's in the watch together, but I don't know if
Yeah, but I don't know
it's
what part of the
correct for
video
you.
it is.
By the way, because they can't be held responsible for their actions. They take the moral claims of any given political group, left or right, and they steal those and make them emblematic of their own virtue. And then they hide in the political realm as exemplars of those ideals. But and that doesn't matter whether it's right wing or left wing in this formulation. All that does is give them false social status and enable them to pick off the spoils. And so, and I'm afraid, I really am afraid, and you can tell me what you think about this. So, the way we protect ourselves against the predatory psychopaths and the narcissists in the real world is that we don't play with them more than once or twice. Right? It's like,
well, okay, that's all. But so I agree completely with what Jordan Peterson's saying here. He's identifying that there's these. He's calling them psychopaths. I think they're just people that have extreme ideological views that are essentially using the instability in our culture at the moment to sort of push their own extreme views without telling people very explicitly what they're doing, and that's kind of the problem. Like if they
Yeah,
were just
and
very
masking
open,
the fact, masking, even going as far as masking the extremity of their views through
right,
using language games.
right, yeah,
The
because
left has kind of perfected this, but I just, on the right,
yes,
are they still using the same kind of language games? On the right, everything is so explicit. It's like they're anonymous and they're posting Hitler.
well, it's
Like,
become a lot more explicit recently. It wasn't super explicit until recently, but you still have bad faith actors like Tucker Carlson, who I believe are 100% doing that, and he's not doing it explicitly. He's doing it from a subtle perspective. Like if Tucker Carlson came out and started saying like, we would be better off if Hitler won World War II, then we'd be having a completely different conversation.
right.
So, okay.
Do you want to watch
Anyway,
the rest of this, or
no,
did you get your fill?
yeah,
All right. Where are
okay.
you at on Kamala? So if you
So
had to vote, you'd be voting Kamala, right?
I've always said from day one,
You said you're not voting, obviously.
no, no, no,
But
no. Wait. From day
okay.
one, I've said I cannot vote for Donald Trump at all from a
Right.
completely principled perspective of the fact that he literally tried to throw out half the country's votes, which
Right.
in my mind is a completely disqualifying action to take when you're the president of the United States. The founding of the country is based upon the peaceful transition of power on what the electorate decides. And you
Right.
don't get to try to disrupt that.
Right.
Period.
And even if you had a magic crystal ball and you knew that Kamala Harris's policies were going to destroy the country and leave us in civil war by the end of her term, and Trump's policies would get us utopia, you would still be like,
Of course not. Then I would vote for Trump.
okay, okay, good. But then I mean, that's the problem with making this argument, that I can't in good conscience, because obviously you'd change your vote if the circumstances were different.
Well, the point, okay, and this is kind of like the question I asked Destiny a year ago.
You did, yeah, I remember.
Where I
It was a
said,
great question.
you know,
Yeah.
if you had a crystal ball and you knew that, you know, if Trump wins the election, I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but it was something like, if Trump wins, you know, the country ends up going better, and if Kamala wins, all the Trump says that the election was stolen. I think I basically said, if you had a crystal ball and you knew that if Kamala wins, or I guess Biden wins back then, you know, the Trump claims of you know, that the Democrats stole the election, while false, creates so much destruction, it basically causes a violent civil war, which destroys the country. Where if Trump wins, you know, those bad actors are satiated, and thus the country continues as usual. Would you prefer Trump winning then? And he said no, right? And to me, I don't know if that just feels like kind of like a debate brain, like he's just on a visual public space, so maybe he can't say what, you know, his actual opinion is or something. But when you ask me that question, like, the whole point of a principle is that you don't know the future and you can't exactly see the outcome of all things. So you have to use principles and other methods of determining your actions in order to try to figure out what is the correct choice down the road.
Yeah, but
so when I say
pragmatism is a principle that trumps all for me. So
I understand that, but so when I say I have a principle like that, I can't vote for Donald Trump because of, you know, trying to throw out half the country's votes. It's like, okay, if Kamala Harris came out tomorrow and said, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to implement socialism. We're going to take everyone's money away, private property away, and everything's going to be, you know, owned by the state or worker co-op. Then obviously I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, right? Like, I'm saying within the bounds of our current existence, of our current political races, what we're looking at here, the principle that I have holds firm, that from a principle level, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, barring any sort of extreme thing on the other side.
I mean, you're putting that principle, though, whatever it is, I mean, it's kind of unclear what the principle is, above pragmatism, because I would argue that you should look at the full breadth of the policy prescriptions and try to vote for the candidate that you think is going to put the country in a better place in 4 years. And you're saying this one thing that Donald Trump did disqualifies him, and I'm not going to look at any of the other factors. So you are basically throwing pragmatism away.
Well, no, because again, as I said, I'm not disqualifying the other factors. If Kamala Harris rips off her face mask and is an alien or a socialist or something, then I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to put the principle aside and vote for Donald Trump.
Well, look, but you're going to the extreme. Look, you're going to the extreme.
I understand that. I understand that.
Let's say the country is going to be 50% better.
Wait, hold on. Okay. If I can see the future, I don't need a principle to determine who I'm choosing for. I'm just going to choose who has the better outcome, obviously.
Okay.
Right?
But so look, you're smart.
Any of these crystal ball questions are kind of irrelevant to what I'm saying.
You're a smart individual. You can guess what sort of situation the country is going to be.
Well, let me give you an element let me tell you where the pragmatism is for the principle I'm talking about, because I generally try to be pragmatic in the way that I'm thinking about the world, is that I look at it from the perspective of, if you have a candidate, Donald Trump, who gives so little shit about preserving the country, or so little shit about what I think is important for a country, this peaceful transition of power, this democracy, that people's votes matter, has so little consideration for any of that stuff, that he's willing from a personal level to throw out half the people's votes to get what he wants. Why the fuck would I trust that individual to do anything?
Right. But Kamala Harris could be doing the same thing accidentally, and you could be in a worse situation. She
could be, but I don't know. I don't have perfect knowledge. I don't know that's the case. So I have to choose
but you could
the better
look at the policy prescriptions, and you could could make a educated guess, as people tend to do.
Sure, but no policy she's talked about has shown to be like, oh my God, she's going to do something on that level of what Donald Trump was trying to do with throwing out half the country's vote.
Let me see if I can find out where your breaking point is on this, because
Okay.
if you know the country is going to be 50% better.
Wait, we have to throw out any I know the country arguments, because I've already said if I have a crystal ball, then you don't need any of these principle
Sitch,
conversations.
I know. Look, you trust your gut. You have a very confident gut. So your gut is telling you the country is going to be 50% better with Trump's policies. Like we've done the full analysis of Trump's policies. We've done the full analysis of Kamala Harris's policies. And Sitch's gut says, I am so confident that Trump's policies are going to be, leave the country in 50% better. Or, maybe we should put it in terms of like GDP, right?
Well, no,
Like,
okay. Okay. I'll just give you the most broad answer possible.
Can I just finish outlining the problem?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put it in terms of GDP, right? Kamala Harris, we're going to be at 3% GDP. Not bad, right? But Trump, we're going to be at 6% GDP. Do you still go on the principle thing? Like you still are like, I can't vote for him on principle. So you're basically denying people 3% GDP.
Right. So that's why I'm trying to say, let me give you the broadest answer possible, because there's lots of ways to throw out these hypotheticals. Like,
sure, totally.
I'll give you just one, and then we can skip all the other ones because it'll take all day. Is like, you could say, okay, hypothetically, if Kamala wins, there'll only be a 3% increase in GDP. Donald Trump wins, there'll be a 6% increase in GDP. But there'll also be some negative ramifications down the road where this causes more political instability, where basically
we've already taken all those into account.
Well, wait, hold on. Let me just finish. Okay.
Where the Republican, thought experiment.
I'm not changing the thought experiment. Okay. Let me just finish.
You're literally changing the thought experiment. Did I not say we take all that into consideration? We've done the full analysis.
Okay.
I said all that.
That's why I was literally trying to say that. That's why I was trying to give this example. And that's why I said I was trying to give you the most broad answer possible.
Okay. Right? Okay. There is some downside. There's some upside. Okay.
So if there's some downside, so it's like, yes, the country will make more money, but the downside is that, our institutional corruption continues, or the divisiveness in the country continues. So congratulations, you get a 3% bump increase from Donald Trump, but you also create a civil war 50 years down the road because it makes everyone fucking crazy. Then obviously that's not the desirable outcome, right? But that's why So that's why I'm saying, let me give you the broadest answer possible, because there's a million different hypotheticals that you can point to. If you have a magic machine that tells you that if Donald Trump wins and Kamala Harris wins, the entire country will literally be exactly the same, with the only difference being that Donald Trump winning gives a 6% increase in GDP, then yeah, obviously you should vote for Donald Trump, okay? But no one has access to that information whatsoever.
Right. But I'm trying to figure out. So you're basically saying you have no idea, like you're not qualified to.
No, what I'm saying is
do a policy assessment.
This is a failure of language. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say something like, from a principled position, I can't vote for Donald Trump because of trying to throw out half the votes.
But I'm trying to figure out what the tangible impact of that is.
Some audio playing somewhere, and I don't know where the fuck it's coming from.
It's not on my system.
From the Watch Together. Did you get that?
No.
There's like I got a pop-up ad in the Watch Together. Anyway, so when I say that I have a principled position where I can't vote for Donald Trump because he tried to throw out half the country's votes, okay, I would hope should be implicit when I'm saying that is, obviously there are, even though, like, when someone says there's a principled reason, unless they're like Ned Stark or a fucking literal retard, that shouldn't be implied to say under any fucking circumstance you would never vote for Donald Trump. It should just mean that I'm weighing that thing so heavily against Donald Trump that it's going to make it like the bar for Kamala is basically so low. Because as I said, if Kamala was, a rampant socialist, a space alien, or something to that effect, then yeah, okay, I'm going to throw out the quote principle, and I'm not going to vote for her. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
I'm just trying to get down to what the tangible ramifications are of that, uh, like the January 6th type stuff. Like, what do you think?
The
Is
ramifications
it
are
it
what I
just
said. If you don't like the word principle because you think it has too much of an absolutist bent to it, the ramifications are, as I said specifically, that if you have a person who has so little trust or so little, I should not even trust,
you're
a
worried
person
that he's going to destroy the institutions?
a person that doesn't give a fuck, has so little respect for our country and the principles of our country, he's going to throw out half the fucking country's votes just because he wants to retain power. I don't trust that individual to do basically anything for
Right.
except for things that are within his own self-interest. Period.
Right. Okay. I mean, I don't trust politicians to do anything anyway. I mean, it's all incentives as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yeah, but most, even if that were true, most politicians would understand that there are certain third rails they shouldn't touch or certain guidelines which the game of self-interest they play has to exist within these boundaries. And Donald Trump has shown that he has far less consideration for those boundaries that other politicians would consider.
do you think Donald Trump will try to destroy the institutions, have some sort of tangible effect on institutional destruction?
I think it's very likely. I think it's very likely he could, if he wins, could just, and I've said this multiple times, could just start firing basic, trying to destroy every single federal institution, firing people, trying to get rid of people en masse, and either just keeping everything non-existent or replacing it with like the literally most retarded political hacks that want to just destroy the system and replace it with their own weird ideological version of the American government. I think that's entirely possible.
Right. I mean, obviously, Kamala Harris is going to want to put her ideological peers in positions of power as well, right?
Yeah, but there's a difference between saying a Democrat or Republican wins a presidential election. There's these levels of appointments that the president generally makes that are some are political, some are supposed to be not political, and the president makes those versus saying, I'm going to gut every institution and tear it down and then either keep it non-existent or replace it with political stooges. That's a completely different thing.
Right. Well, it seems more that the January 6th act, you don't want to vote for him because you think it's indicative of him being dishonest, and that's really
On
the
a
root of
level,
what it is.
well, not just dishonest, but self-interested on a level that I haven't seen in other politicians.
Right. Which, and I fundamentally believe the politicians are just as self-interested. So
Yeah, but do you agree that even if we hypothetically say every politician on in the American government is just as self-interested as Donald Trump, they still feel like there's a box of behavior that they can do that they won't stray from. And Donald Trump doesn't have that, or he's willing to stray much further into the extremes than other politicians. You would agree with that?
he is definitely willing to break social norms.
To a degree far greater than any other politician.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well then that's the same. That's the effect that I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would try to look at the effect of that. But
Well, it's hard to judge exactly what the effect.
You're just saying that is a defining feature of his candidacy. That is a point too far. Like when I was doing the thought experiment about GDP, I was just thinking like how much. I mean, obviously, life is about risk and reward. So,
well, let me tell you why. Okay, because because there's that issue with Donald Trump, which you agree with. He's willing to basically seemingly break so many social conventions, so many social norms, so many cultural institutional norms of our government. Then it kind of it puts you in the black box that you were afraid of with Biden, where just like you don't fucking know what Donald Trump's going to do. Like if this was just any Republican candidate, you're like, okay, I kind of have a vague sense or general sense of the types of behaviors that you could theoretically expect, even if you disagree with them on a political level. And I feel like with Donald Trump, because of his actions, that you don't know exactly what that looks like. It could just be another Donald Trump, another 4 years of what his first term was. He does a bunch of Republican things and that's it. And no one gives a shit. And okay, then we all just shrug. Or it could be massive, completely, overhaul of the government that leads us down a very bad pathway. I don't fucking know. And that's the problem, is that I don't know. It is a black box with Donald Trump because he doesn't follow these norms.
I mean, I would think the practitioner's veto would step in at some point. I mean, the idea that he has this infinite power that he can just restructure the government seems a bit out there.
That's why everyone was raising their hair about Project 2025, is that so much of Project 2025 is laying out ways to destroy the practitioner's veto.
Yeah, look, he's already all the people, all the loyalists that he's supposed to put into office, he's already completely fucked over. Like, you understand the dictator's handbook scenario, the winning coalition. You understand all of that. Like, he's got to keep that kind of coalition together. I don't think it's possible, the things that people are thinking Donald Trump is going to do. I don't think those things are actually possible, plausible, any of that. Yeah.
No, it might not be possible. And it might be, even if they were possible, Donald Trump is too incompetent to achieve them. That's fine.
Right.
But then the question is, okay, you're basically saying, I'm going to vote for someone, even if I have this risk factor for them, just because I think he's not competent enough or won't be able to achieve them, versus voting for someone else who I just disagree with some level of their policies, or I think that they're stupid.
Well, look, if immigration is something you care about, you should definitely vote for Donald Trump, because I have no faith that Kamala Harris is going to stand up to her party on immigration.
Her party's on board with immigration right now. So I don't even know why you'd say that. Joe Biden passed this incredibly stringent executive order to vastly limit immigration. Kamala Harris has been on record a billion times saying she's in favor of the border bill.
Because they had the pressure of the upcoming election. But as soon as she's in office, that pressure is going to be removed, and the pressure she's going to feel is from her. I don't think
constituents. She's going to run for re-election if she wins. If Kamala Harris wins, okay, I don't believe that you can have when presidents in primaries, they run more to the extreme, and then in the generals they run more to the center, and then what their actual term looks like is kind of, some combination of those two things, right?
We watched Kamala Harris. You said she hasn't stood up to anyone on anything on her side.
Wait a minute. I've never said that at all. She 100%, when she comes out and says we're gonna have the most lethal military in her speech, and all the leftists get fucking super mad. So then she says it again. Obviously, that's a signal. Otherwise, she wouldn't say it again. She would have just been like, "Oh, let me quietly hide this away," right?
We watched her talking to the black reporters, and every single one of them came at her from the left, and we said what a great thing it would be, how politically effective it would be
she
for her
away
to
from
stand up to those people.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't stand up to any of those people. Yeah.
Yes. The same way, because most politicians are not going to. They're going to try to win as many votes as possible.
Your argument for Biden was that Biden was going to stand up to the left. Did that happen?
No.
You said many times he didn't.
That is not my argument for Biden, and it kind of drives me crazy if you or other people strawman me. Okay. My argument with Biden, which actually didn't start to come to fruition until October 7th, was that Biden was going to go to office. He was going to not be woke enough for the woke people. The woke people start attacking him. The mainstream press would defend Biden against the woke people. Okay.
Right.
That did happen. It just didn't start to happen until October 7th. So I was just wrong on the time scale. And
you needed a catalyst like October 7th, otherwise it never would have happened.
The thing I was wrong about was that, yes, Biden did give far more into the woke shit than I would have anticipated, placate the woke shit.
Okay,
right?
So apply that thinking to Kamala Harris without an October 7th catalyst.
Okay. We have to look at time as the linear progression of events and say, we can look at 2020 in the environment of the 2020 election was like peak woke insanity. Right. Okay. Now we look at the 4 years later, 2024. What does it look like? Very different. Kamala Harris is run her campaign so differently than she ran in 2020. 2020, she was trying to out-woke everyone. Now she's literally intentionally trying to run as a moderate, which is very interesting. Okay. So you're saying is that you think she's just going to run as a moderate, win the presidency, and say, ha, 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 I'm really the woke Kamala Harris from 4 years ago.
No, why is she trying to run as a moderate?
Because the Democrats think that's what the electorate wants right now.
Because the electorate is pushing her to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And that's what
so
you want.
when
You
she
want
gets into office
Mhm.
and her constituents, the people that voted for her and got her elected and want to push her to have open borders and amnesty and
Wait, well, I don't know. You just reverse what you were saying.
What?
She's saying, I'm going to be tough on borders. I'm running to the center because she thinks that's what the electorate wants, which I agree is what the electorate wants.
right,
Then when
but
she
that's
wins the
5
presidency,
that is 5% of the electorate.
that's not
That's
5%. The majority,
2% of the
what are you
electorate.
talking?
The center.
Wait, what? No, the majority of Democrats are not in favor of open borders. The majority, this is part of why the Democrat Party pivoted on this. The majority of Democrats in polling think that immigration is a real issue and that there are too many people coming to the country.
Okay. So she's going to pass that border bill.
Yes.
Okay. Look,
You think, wait, Kamala Harris is going to, if she wins, she's going to try to run again. If you think if she won the election and then said, psych, I'm not really as the moderate that I ran as, I'm super fucking lefty, woke, progressive, borderline socialist that Donald Trump's saying,
well,
they'll completely destroy her ability to win the election for the re-election.
Look, obviously, neither one of us have a crystal ball, but we act like we do. We'll have to make this contingent on Kamala Harris winning the election. But here's how I see it playing out. And look, she might win. I see her trying to pass that border bill and failing, not passing the border bill, and blaming the Republicans for it, and the border bill not getting passed. So, I mean, gentleman's bet. I bet you $1 it happens.
Hold on. Can't get this stupid fucking mattress from Ed.
Look,
like it's just blaring in the watch together, and I didn't hear anything they
that's
said.
hilarious.
What was the gentleman's agreement? What was the bet that you were making?
Listen, I have a ad blocker on that's why I only use this browser for the live streams.
I have an ad blocker too, but I'm pretty sure I had to turn it off specifically for the watch together because that was the only way that could get the website to force me to.
I think if Kamala Harris wins the election, yes, I agree with you that she needs center moderate voters to win the election. But I think the vast majority of her base is not going to want the border bill. And she's going to cater to that vast majority of her base over the swing voters that actually got her elected. So I think she will not pass the border bill. I think she will blame the Republicans for her inability to pass the border bill. And the border bill will never get done. My gentleman's bet is that if Kamala is elected, no border bill.
First of all, I don't know what you're basing this off of, because is there a poll that says that Democrats don't like this border bill or something? I don't know what you're basing this off.
Philosophically, the base of the Democratic Party does not want some strict border bill.
The Democrats used to be in favor of strict immigration until 20 years ago. Okay, so it's not like
Look, then
outside.
Just take the gentleman's bet and say, she's
I will
definitely going to
100%
pass the
take
border
the gentleman's
bill.
bet. Wait, hold on. Number one, I will 100% take the gentleman's bet that if Kamala Harris wins the election and the executive order is overturned in the courts or something, so that you need the bill to essentially do the action, which I don't think they do currently right now, that yes, she will try to get this border bill passed. The Democrats will try to get this border bill passed, and it'll be the Republicans that try to stand in the way of it. 100%. Right. Yes.
If
I will take that bet.
If there is some sort of health care bill, who is more likely to pass that bill, Democrats or Republicans?
I don't think either of them is going to pass.
Can you even imagine Republicans passing a health care bill?
I can't imagine either of them passing a health care bill, honestly.
So why do you imagine the Democrats passing an immigration bill?
Because they've literally tried. This is the problem. This is why I can't imagine anyone passing a Medicare bill. No one has a plan at all. There's just nothing. No one has proposed jack shit to do this whatsoever. The border bill, completely different. There's a literal bill that already exists that the Democrats keep pointing to and saying, we're going to push this, we're going to push this, we're going to push this, we literally tried to push this. It couldn't come into fruition because the Republicans blocked it. So Joe Biden enacted parts of it through executive order. So So obviously, this is their policy they want to bank on.
Well, good. I mean,
I don't
we're
think
both on the record. We don't have to dwell on it.
I think that
either happens or it doesn't happen.
okay. I mean, I agree with you. I think the politicians are self-interested, and I think the self-interested Democrats say they look at the polling. People care about immigration, even Democrats. The majority of Democrats are in favor of stricter border controls, and so they're going to go do that.
We'll see.
Okay. That to me, that is the dictator's handbook. I don't believe in this sort of conspiracy version that like the Democrats are actually secretly, trying to destroy the country with
I'm looking at it from
multiculturalism or something.
Don't accuse me of conspiracy
I'm
theories. I'm looking at it from a dictator's handbook perspective too, and I'm saying that a larger part of her winning coalition does not want to see some strict border bill.
I don't know.
Like
that's
maybe
not based on
maybe 40% of her winning coalition is united against a border bill.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 10% at the center margin is united in favor of the border bill. Like, if you want to persuade me with polling, feel free.
Okay, I was going to say if you because I mean I'm looking at now. I'm not familiar.
You have so many Democrats that are like, look, you guys are Republican. They're literally going to hit her with the you're a Republican.
You don't.
Stick.
You're
a racist.
We have very progressive left-wing internet pundits saying that. Okay, all the Democrat politicians are not saying that. The mainstream media is not saying that. I have a poll here. It says 2 in 3 Americans support the bipartisan immigration deal.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm looking at the politics of the situation. You know exactly what's going to happen if Kamala Harris signs a border bill.
Hold on.
You know exactly what is going to happen.
No, wait. It says, and then it breaks it down by political party. It says 64% of Republicans at the time of this polling for the border bill were in favor of it. 16 were against it. Oh, no, sorry. 70. That was independent.
Send it to me so I can bring it up.
Okay.
It'll be great.
Okay. There, I sent it to you. It says, according to this poll, 74% of Republicans were in favor of this deal. 16% opposed it. 59% of Democrats were in favor of it. 27 were against it. So we still had the majority of Democrats overwhelmingly in favor of this, according to this poll. So that's what I'm saying. If you have like a poll that shows that like the majority of Democrats were against the immigration deal, I would agree with you. I've never seen that anywhere. And the fact that Kamala herself, the Democratic Party, like keeps pushing this border bill makes me think that the majority of Democrats who just sort of, kind of listen to whatever the party is telling them, they're just going to support it if the majority of Democrats are pushing it.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
I mean, she will still have the Republicans to contend with.
Well, yeah, they might. I mean, they would 100% probably not going to try to push it. I agree with that.
Look, so she's going to say they're actually going to make sure that she can't pass it. And then when she says, "Oh, I couldn't pass a border bill because of the Republicans," and we don't get the border bill, I still win the bet, right?
You do not win the bet. No.
Why do I not win the bet? The bet is that the border bill will not get passed.
That was not the bet. The bet was on whether she would attempt to pass the bill, not whether it would pass or not.
No.
I'm not betting. Wait, then I'm obviously not going to agree. The Republicans are going to try to block anything the Democrats do. That's an easy bet.
Okay. So you agree that if Kamala Harris becomes president, a border bill will not get passed?
I didn't say that at all.
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
Hold on. You made the argument. You said two things. You said that you think if Donald Trump wins, it's far more likely to do something on the border, and that Democrats win, they're not going to do anything on the border.
Correct.
Okay. And I said, why would you? I don't know what that's drawing from. The Democrats have already staked a very strong position on what they want to do with the border. We already have the bill. We've already looked at it. Okay. And if you say yes, but the Republicans are going to try to block it, which I agree with, I say, okay, I agree. If Donald Trump wins, the Democrats are going to try to block anything he tries to pass either. So you have the exact same scenario.
Yes. But
Donald
the
Trump
Republicans are more incentivized to actually pass it because their voters want it.
No, but
The Democrats are less incentivized because they have a huge part of their winning coalition that doesn't even want it passed.
both parties are incentivized first and foremost to try to block the other party from succeeding. Okay. I assume you agree with that.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So if the Democrats win and they try to pass the border bill, most Republicans, I would imagine, I would predict, will try to prevent the bill from passing because they don't want to give the Democrats a win. If Donald Trump wins, they're not going to just pass this border bill. They're going to change it and try to make it more stricter because they have to, because they said that it was a weak bill and it needs to be changed and blah, 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 blah. They have to add something to it.
So we'll make it a 2-tier bet. We'll make it.
Well, so wait, let me just finish. Okay. So they're going to add something to it. And then when whatever they add to it, regardless of whether it's actually a good policy or bad policy, the Democrats are going to say, well, the border bill was great, but then you made it too insane by adding whatever this thing is. So we're going to be against this bill, right? So either way, it doesn't matter who wins, you're going to have the other side try to prevent them from passing a border bill.
Obviously.
Okay.
And I said in the very beginning of this, if you want a border bill passed, then you should vote for Donald Trump.
But that doesn't make any sense. Okay, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. That doesn't go against anything I just said.
It's okay. It's more likely, obviously, for the Republicans to push to pass a bill that more of their voters want to actually get passed than it is for the Democrats to. But you think that the Democrats, a massive amount of their coalition wants to pass some sort of immigration bill.
I think too much of the election has been literally wrapped up on this border bill, that if Kamala wins and this executive order gets overturned by the courts, that she won't have the political ability to run in 2028 and just say, fuck you, I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to leave the border total fucking mess and allow people to run the country, to create the exact same problem that we had for the last, 2 years, 3 years.
She has the perfect excuse. She blames the Republican.
But that's different. That's okay. Okay, I don't know.
I mean, it's literally
I don't know how we're just repeating
effective.
ourselves. I have no fucking clue how we're just repeating ourselves.
So the bet is that I'll bet you the gentleman's bet Kamala Harris doesn't try to pass a bill. Okay. It just goes off in the ether. It's the next public option. Okay.
Right.
And I will also bet you, double or nothing, that if she tries to pass a bill, it goes nowhere. The Republicans kill it. Is that good? Do we have all our bases covered?
I agree with the first bet. I don't agree with the second bet because I think that's very likely. I'm not going to agree against something I think is very likely.
Okay. I'll do the gentleman's bet that she tries
you
to
understand.
pass it.
Wait, you understand that you cannot say Donald Trump's more likely to pass something if he has the exact same constraint exists for him that does for Kamala, which is the other party is going to try to stop it regardless of what it is.
Yeah, I understand the constraint,
okay.
but
if
your coalition though is conflicted over the policy, you're less likely to pass it. Yeah, but like you have members in your coalition that don't want the policy and members that do want the policy.
If Donald Trump can't pass a bill because the Democrats won't let them, how does it logistically get passed?
Well, look, the logistics of actually passing the bill, we'd have to go into the structure of the House, the House and Senate, obviously. But the argument that I'm making here, that I'm talking about, is that the Democratic coalition is divided on this border bill. So therefore, Kamala has the perfect out if the Republicans kill the bill. And look, then half of her coalition is happy because they didn't want the bill to begin with. And the other half of her coalition is mad at the Republicans because they're the ones that killed the bill that she wanted. She gets off either way. The Republicans, on the other hand, have their entire coalition wants an immigration bill. If they don't pass it, their whole coalition is unhappy. Does that not make sense? Is that not perfectly clear?
I understand that. I'm just saying you're saying that they're going to somehow do something about it. And I don't see what that is. I don't see how that's going to manifest.
So you're basically saying that the Democrats can stop the Republicans very easily or whatever.
Yeah, both parties, unless some party gets a supermajority, or actually I disagree with you and I'll tell you why. Okay. the Democrat Party is more likely to get rid of the filibuster than Republicans are.
I don't want to go into the details of the policy
Well,
passing.
but then you can't make
Look,
that argument.
I've literally made my argument already. Okay, like
well,
if that argument is not persuasive to you, that's fine.
okay.
I'm sure it's persuasive to other people. So, I mean, you want to make the argument that Republicans can't pass an immigration bill. That's the argument you want to make.
That's
right
not
now,
the
right?
no. That's not the argument I was making. I was making that they're going to try to pass the Democrats are going to try to pass the fucking border bill, and then you said, well, the Republicans are going to block, and I said, okay. And anything the Republicans are passed, they're going to try to block. And then you said, well, but the Republicans are more incentivized as a coalition to try to get something passed. But I say, okay, but how? And then you say, well, I don't want to talk about how. I'm like, well, then you can't make the claim. I mean, you can make the claim, but it's not going to necessarily manifest into anything. Especially if I think the Democrats are more likely to get rid of the filibuster.
How is it material when we already made the bet that Kamala isn't even going to try? So,
okay, well, that's fine. It doesn't have to be because I agree to that bet. That's the bet. She will 100% try.
Okay, good.
Asterisk.
If she's elected.
This executive, if she's elected, obviously, and also if the executive order gets overturned in the courts, because if the Biden executive order does what the border bill already supposed to do and it is upheld, then obviously they're not going to try to pass anything because why the fuck would they need to?
Just tell me you,
or they'll just try to pass some additional funding or something for the border.
At least tell me you agree with the Democrats being divided on immigration.
Yeah, they're more divided than Republicans.
Okay, good.
Sure. Well, I guess we're not going to watch any of these clips because it's already way too late.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? This has been, look, I'm having a blast. I hope you're having a blast too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't mind contentious conversations.
Definitely.
And look, you're definitely keeping me on my toes here. So I could never do this like 8 hours into a stream. That's what I like to get.
That's what we got to do. Okay.
Well, look, I love these.
We got to wear you out.
Look, I love these shorter streams because I am on it. Like I'm well rested and ready to go. So, but look, we got a bunch of super chats, and I love that we got a new bet on. Keep us. Look, if someone comment in the comments what the bet is, in case we forget.
Well,
but
I'm not gonna forget. Well, I'll read super chats, then we'll see what our time is like because I feel like watching all these clips is gonna add like an extra.
The Kamala clips? I mean, we can watch
like
them tomorrow.
2 hours or something, yeah.
We'll just watch them tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
To be continued.
Right, to be continued. J-Mac, our circuit fire, thank you so much, J-Mac, for the $100. Says, I've been having conversations like this quite often. My family is incredibly pro-Trump, and I'm in a battleground state. You can imagine the heat I've been getting from my right-wing family and left-wing friends, but as of today, I'm not voting for either Kamala or Trump. There you go.
Right. Well, look... I have elected to take this Sophie's choice on myself.
There you go.
Look, I obviously I'm getting a lot of shit as well, J-Mac. So, but look, I mean, it sucks. It definitely sucks. But what are you gonna do? I'm voting for one of these crazy people.
I'm getting this really weird UI issue where the thumbs up underneath the comments on the super chats like keeps changing like wildly super quickly.
Why are you?
It's creating like a memory leak.
Why are you mining crypto on your machine while you're doing these live streams, Sitch? Maybe you should turn your crypto.
It's crazy. I don't know why it's doing that.
Huh. Well, look, if you have to restart your computer, you can just come back. So
I don't need to restart my computer. I think I may just need to close this tab or something and then reopen it.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna do that. Hold on. I'm just gonna close Chrome. Come back in a second. I mean, I can still hear you and everything. But...
Okay. What if you were voting? What are the top issues that you would look at? Is it the economy? Because everyone is like the economy. This is why I think Trump has an advantage, because you look at those polls where more people believe Trump will handle the economy effectively, and Kamala Harris is kind of this wild card on the economy.
Well, Kamala Harris is kind of a wild card on a lot of things. I think that's her biggest problem.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm watching all this stuff and I'm thinking, is this person qualified to be president?
Right.
Immediately you take, but as soon as you go down the, well, Trump is going to try to destroy the entire country, then obviously he's not qualified, right? Like if you believe that, then Trump is not qualified either.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of the issue, right?
I mean, whether or not they, I mean, this is why we have the system that we have that's supposed to check that kind of power. Even if
I
somebody
understand, but
does want to go in with a sledgehammer, they can't
this is,
necessarily do any damage.
I understand it, but this is the weakness of the pro-Trump side here, is that they basically say, you basically have to say, yes, I acknowledge that Donald Trump is, may as well try to destroy key parts of democracy, but I think the institutions will basically keep him in check. And it's like, okay, well, then if that's the case, you can vote for Trump. But I would argue that you must think that the benefit that he would grant has to be so outrageously high in order to take that risk. And I don't fucking see that at all.
I think it's an equal risk on either side, because I do think the power checking ability on Republicans is much stronger because the Democrats have all the social and the press. They basically have the press, they have academia, and they have all of the social institutions to keep the Republicans in check. The opposite is not true of the Democrats. So the Democrats, I think, can destroy institutions accidentally, like not purposefully trying to destroy institutions, but just by doing dumb shit. And since they've got the entire press and the entire academia just like happy seals clapping, oh my God, this is perfect, right? They could do a lot of institutional damage. So I do think it's like an equal threat.
Well, I agree with the idea that, yes, the Democrats can create institutional damage from the level of there aren't really effective, not just incompetence. I mean, I guess, yeah, it's true, but the left doesn't have proper gatekeeping mechanisms to prevent the left's insanity, the insane people on the left, from causing all the institutional damage. While society does have gatekeeping and, canaries in the coal mine to prevent the insanity of the right, or the insane people on the right, I should say, causing institutional damage. So I agree with that perspective of it.
Okay, so you agree with my argument.
I don't
That's
agree
a
with your
rational argument for voting
I don't
for
necessarily agree with
Republicans. Okay.
No, I don't agree. But I mean, this is how we got wokeness in the first place, is the fact that
to vote for Republicans.
Well, this is how we got well, hold on. Okay. This is how we got wokeness in the first place, is that the institutions didn't have this defense mechanism to prevent, the institutions seem to be so attuned to trying to keep out the insanity of the right that doesn't have any defenses to keep out the insanity of the left. And so that it kind of allowed the insanity of the left to sink its disgusting little tendrils into all these various institutions. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So I do 100% say that is true. The issue I have with the overall statement you said is, when you look at, and this is part of what I said about, I don't know, in terms of, and this came up in the conversation we had with Destiny last year, in terms of voting for Donald Trump or not Donald Trump. Part of it, the calculation is, that I said in that argument, and I still think is completely true, is the left and the right have different problems. The left has this sort of slow growth, insipid, philosophical woke socialist thing that's like infecting it.
Right.
And it's kind of going slowly, kind of trying to make its way to the head. Okay.
Right.
The right has
it's great. Look, you make it visual, just you're not even trying. Why can't Kamala do this?
Exactly. Right. The right has a completely different issue. The right, the head is already the weird insanity shit. Is, Trump is sort of this like bizarre, bull in a china shop who I don't even know what the fuck he really stands for except for his own self-interest. But he's sort of like, he's already the head of the movement. So if Trump is gone, whether he wins and is president for 4 years or loses and out, I don't think that this sort of energy, this anti-American right-wing energy, that could possibly lead to worse things down the road, I don't think it's going to metastasize in the Republican Party. I think it's going to die. I think other Republicans are going to try to pick up the mantle, but they're going to fail. and I don't really know what the future of the Republican Party is going to look like. It's more unclear to me what the future of the Republican Party is going to look like.
Right.
And so when I look at it from that perspective, I say, okay, well, what's better? Is it better if Donald Trump wins or loses? What's going to be better for the Democrat Party? What's going to be better for the Republican Party? For the Republican Party, I don't know. It's just a big question mark. I have no fucking clue. For the Democratic Party, and this is where I kind of disagree with the institutional decay that you're talking about, we can look at history and we could say, well, what happened when Donald Trump won the first time? And Donald Trump won the first time, it literally made the mainstream melt down, go insane, and turn to wokeness, either to A, explain how Donald Trump won, or B, just to hit Donald Trump with a racist stick again and again and again, which they thought was effective. The country literally became hyper woke in reaction to Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was out of office, what happened? Suddenly, it seemed like not everyone, but it seemed like the country started to become less woke, and people in the Democrats were able to start pushing back against wokeness. And this is why I said the other day, and everyone agrees, if you talk to anyone on the left about the dangers of wokeness, about the dangers of this sort of creeping socialist nonsense in the left, you cannot have that conversation with them during an election because all they say is, what about Trump? What about Trump? What about Trump? You literally cannot even have that conversation with anyone. And so I don't see how, if Donald Trump wins, I don't see how that's going to help stamp down on this sort of growing cancer in the left movement. I just see that's just going to make everything worse, as it did from 2016 to 2020.
So, but you think Donald Trump losing basically cuts off the growing infection?
It doesn't cut off the growing infection, but it allows it to at least be observed by the left and gotten rid of, potentially.
Right. So, I mean, look, these are rational arguments not to vote for Donald Trump or to vote for Kamala Harris. So, good job.
Thank you. J. Microsurgafire for $20 says the tangible impact, Adam, is that Trump has demonstrated that his ego supersedes the Constitution. It's incredibly volatile, and all one needs to do is point to history to see where that can lead.
Yeah, I think there are checks on power, obviously. And I do think, look, I'm not buying all this like, oh my God, I'm so humble from Kamala Harris. I fundamentally think all politicians are kind of egomaniacs. So, and look, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to find out, is Kamala Harris really someone who dives into the details and is a hard worker, or is she an egomaniac? I don't know. I really don't know. With Trump, I feel like I know what I'm getting with Trump. I really do. I feel like the ingredients are right there labeled on the package, right? Mm-hmm. So I can make an assessment that seems informed. With Kamala Harris, I'm just like, I don't know. I really don't know. And I did look, who else has gone out and watched 5 hours of Kamala Harris talks to kind of get a read on this person? Like that's a huge undertaking that most people are not going to do, right? And right. I still don't feel like I really have a strong read on who this person is, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it's getting to the point where I'm thinking I got to sit down with this person, and it's weird too, because she goes in. A lot of these talks are people that just completely agree with her. So a lot of the things, like if I wasn't in the know on what's going on in woke spaces and progressive spaces, I mean, they talk about a lot of this stuff in lingo that I think normies wouldn't even really understand what they're talking about. So, I mean, there's a kind of comfort that she has with the woke end of the spectrum. I mean, you're picking that up too, right, Sitch?
Not from the old interviews. But
really? Okay.
In the newer interviews, I mean, she definitely ran woke.
No. I'll send you some older interviews that she's right there.
Well, she does actually. The one thing that she says in a lot of the old interviews that would align with what you're saying, is that she keeps saying whenever she answers this question about why she got into why she wanted to be a prosecutor or the attorney general, is that she keeps talking about how she grew up in a household where like her parents
Activists, yeah.
were activists, yes,
Yep.
and that they believed a lot in sort of like,
Shouting in the streets.
shouting in the streets for the rights of Black people. Now, obviously, this isn't like, the civil rights era back when there was things to be shouting about. Um, and that therefore, she thought that she could sort of help, do this through the lens of being an attorney general. Though it's interesting because when she gives that answer, she also follows it up by saying when she said she was going to be a lawyer for the state, that like pissed off her family. Her kind of lefty family was like, you can't do that. You're putting, the implication is like you're putting innocent people away. You need to be like a public defender. You don't want to be the person putting people away.
Right.
And there's other statements she said that's kind of interesting where she draws that distinction about how she didn't want to be a public defender. She wanted to be the person putting people away. And I think that stems from, what she was saying about how, her friend was sexually assaulted by her stepfather and, these sorts of issues. Because, whenever I've heard her talk, she does not. That's why I take such umbrage to the soft on crime thing, is that whenever I'm listening to her talk as attorney general, I don't really hear any sort of soft on crime mentality at all. And I don't think her personality is driven to be soft on crime.
You
Because
think it's
otherwise,
an
then she would
unfair?
have been a public defender or something to that effect.
You think it's an unfair attack? So
Yes, I don't think it's accurate. But JMac for $20. Thank you so much. Says Kamala's lack of principled position is just as volatile as Trump's ego, in my opinion. She won't even take up the position on her policy reversals as I gain new information, where switching should be cause for concern, not relief. I mean, I guess I definitely agree with that.
yeah, I agree too. Obviously,
that's why I said, like, if Donald Trump was running against almost any other Democrat, or I think Kamala would be getting annihilated by basically any other Republican.
yeah,
it's really
totally.
the hatred of Donald Trump that's keeping her afloat because she's running such a bad campaign. And I think she's such a bad candidate. And if you guys go back, when we talked about potential candidates before Biden dropped out, we all said again and again and again, Kamala would possibly be like one of the worst candidates. And here we are. So.
The one thing I noticed by going back and listening to all these old Kamala interviews is that people on the left just are so hungry for Kamala or Kamala presidency. They call her the female Barack Obama. They constantly ask her when she's running. In their heads, this is like manifest destiny for Kamala Harris to be president of the United States, which that's something, I mean, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't gone back and started listening to these. So I do think there's a lot of people on the left. And look, I don't think she could have won a primary, but this is their opportunity. Those elites who are having these conversations with her, right, in front of audiences.
Right.
They love this. This is what they've been planning for years and years and years, right? Some of those talks go back 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
One was 2012.
Yeah, I'll be right back if you want to keep reading Super.
All right. But I like it when you read this Super Sitch. Maybe he's got to restart his computer now. So, yeah, J-Mac, just on your Super Chat, this is why I think there ain't no border bill getting passed. What are we thinking? Are you kidding me? In order to get a border bill passed, she would have to stand up to her party, or at least big parts of her party. She would have to stand up to those people, right? And you think she's got the will to stand up to those people, to put those people in their place so that she can pass a border bill that for the rest of her presidency, everyone's going to compare her to Republicans? They're basically going to say, oh, she's a Republican Democrat. She might as well be a Republican, is what they're going to say over and over and over again. And she's going to have to take that. I don't think she wants that. I think she's the type of person who likes people thinking that she's nice and kind and generous and cool, and people looking up to her and making nice coconut memes about her. I don't think she's going to want that kind of pressure. She tells one story. She tells one story that's kind of frustrating because it is an interesting story, and I guess maybe she elaborates on it in her book. Maybe I'll have to actually read her book to know, but she tells
I'm
this
back.
story. Hey, what's up? She tells a story about how she got Jamie Dimon on the phone, and it's like a big deal because Jamie Dimon is like a big important elite banker, and she's gonna like she's basically speaking truth to power, right? But she doesn't
Right.
really say anything about how the conversation went. Like she leaves it at she got Jamie Dimon on the phone.
She
And
said
I'm
this
going,
recently, or was this in the past?
is in one of the talks, yeah. Evidently, she talks about it in her book too. Maybe I hope she tells more about it in her book.
Her
But
recent book or her
yeah,
old book?
I'm not sure. Look, she could have 20 books for all I know. I'm just
She has 2
recounting.
books.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm just saying.
okay.
Oh, it's
You've
this
looked
in
at
the
her book
aftermath.
list?
It's the housing crash phone call.
Yes.
I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So she tells a story about how
Right.
she tells her staff, get Jamie Dimon on the phone. And they're saying, Kamala, it's Jamie Dimon. You can't get Jamie Dimon on the phone. Like, what are you going to say to him? Jamie Dimon, you can't do that. You're just the attorney general. That's Jamie Dimon. This is her story, right?
Right.
So, but then the story ends with, and she got Jamie Dimon on the phone. What the fuck was the conversation? What happened when you got him on the phone? Like, what did you get out of him? She frames it as like this is her brilliant negotiation strategy or whatever, which, I don't know if she got a good deal on this. She got some money back on people who were fucked over in the housing crash on their mortgages. I don't know if she got a lot back or a little.
Well, I found an article I can read very quickly about this.
Okay, do it up.
Yahoo. This is from Yahoo Finance. How a heated phone call between Kamala Harris and J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon may have impacted housing relief. In the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, as many Americans faced foreclosures, an unexpected confrontation between then California Attorney General Kamala Harris and J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon set the stage for a shift in homeowner relief efforts. The encounter is described in Harris's 2019 autobiography. Is what we're talking about. Begins as an impromptu phone call and quickly escalated into what she terms 2 dogs in a fight. According to Fortune, which originally reported on the phone call, the issue was a proposed settlement between major Wall Street banks and state attorney generals to compensate homeowners affected by the foreclosure crisis. So that makes it sound like he would have to take the phone call. So any sort of idea that this was like a magic phone call doesn't seem to be accurate. But according to Harris's account, Dimon accused her of trying to, quote, steal from my shareholders. Almost immediately after picking up the phone, Harris fired back, quote, your shareholders. My shareholders are the homeowners of California. You come and see them, talk to them about who got robbed. The heated exchange, while brief, appeared to have been a turning point. Harris said that 2 weeks after the phone call, the banks increased their offer from $2 billion to $4 billion for California, ultimately resulting in $20 billion in homeowner relief. Quote, I'll never know what happened to Dimon's side, Harris noted in her book, but I do know 2 weeks later, the banks gave in. The settlement finalized in 2012 and provided $18.4 billion in relief and $2 billion in other assistance to California homeowners. It was a victory for Harris, who earlier walked away from the multi-state settlement talks, frustrated by what she saw as bad bank offers. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to know how much money homeowners lost in California to know if $4 billion is a good deal or not. So,
well, I guess it's a good deal in terms of if there was a multi-state settlement and she said, I'm not going to be part of a multi-state settlement, and then it got extra because she went in alone, even if it's not, enough, it's still better than what everyone else did.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the argument that she's making. Whenever she tells the story. So.
Right.
Okay. Did you read
San Francisco homeowners lose $260 billion in value. How much money did she get?
It said an extra 2. I just closed it. I think it said extra 2 billion.
Okay, so she got 4 billion total.
San Francisco increased their offer from 2 to 4. So that's what it says.
San Francisco alone lost $260 billion.
From this article, it's not clear to me whether she got 2 billion or 4 billion. So.
Right.
I don't know. One of those.
But I mean, if San Francisco homeowners lost $260 billion in value, for their homes, and she got
Obviously,
4
that's a
billion.
drop in the bucket. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Right.
nothing to brag about.
Right. Well, I don't know how is this money doled out? What does that even mean?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't own a home in 2008, so
I owned a home shortly after
there
2008.
you go. Did you read Brian's $20 super chat?
I didn't read any super chats
Okay.
because
Brian
that's how I roll.
There you go. I like it. Brian for $20 says Biden kind of ran as a moderate as well, but he tricked me too. I don't buy Kamala and remain sensible. As soon as she's elected, Kamala has been spouting her far left talking points will come back to the surface. Yeah, listen, I don't necessarily blame anyone for thinking that because I agree. Biden did run not super moderate, but he did run more moderate than a lot of the other Democrats in the race. So I don't blame anyone for being suspect of Kamala, doing the same action. I think that's totally reasonable.
Do you think if someone broke into Kamala Harris's home and did threaten her family, do you think she would shoot him?
If he had a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny how she protects her family to the death.
There you go.
Yeah.
J Mac, I should get $5 for $20. Thank you. Says, speaking of bets, I still owe Sitch. Want me to Zelia, buddy? DM me so I could pay my dues. A gentleman never owes money. Oh, that's right. Okay. I don't have a Zelle, but I guess I can send you my PayPal.
Look, I have.
That was J Mac.
I don't think I ever collected from Phil either, but
yeah,
I'm bad at collecting on my bets. I like making the bets.
There you go.
Anyway.
Mr. Ubercross, thank you so much for 20 get the memberships. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so nice of you. Thanks. Welcome new members.
Kerm for $50 says the difference between now and 2016 is we have been through 8 years of wokeness in the public is a lot more exhausted by it now than it was back then. I could see the argument if it was still Biden, but Kamala is much more radical than Biden. So I agree with you in terms of the first part that the public is fatigued, I think, on wokeness generally. So even if Trump wins, I don't think you're going to see a full, recover going back to the 2016 to 2020 period. I do think the wokeness is going to increase again, but I don't think it's going to ever go back to that level. But in terms of Kamala being more radical than Biden, this is part of the problem. I don't know. I feel like Kamala is that's why we made the joke about the Kamala chameleon. I feel like she's just a political chameleon who is trying to win elections and shifting to whatever she thinks will help her win. I'm not sure from like a personal ideological level. I don't know if she is a radical. I don't think she is a radical from a personal level. And if the environment is telling her right now that you got to be moderate to govern to win, I don't see why she would shift back all of a sudden.
Well, winning and governing are two completely different.
I mean, that is
things.
true.
Yeah,
right? That is true. But so we'll see.
Do you think she's the type of person that wants to be bathed in acolytes, or she's the type of person that's going to stand up to her party and be called a racist bitch for putting forward a immigration bill?
Well, if she thinks it's going to help her win a second term, she's going to take the racist bitch any day.
Really? I'm not.
Yeah, of course.
I've seen nothing from Kamala that makes me like, no, I'm guessing. I'd have to be guessing.
Well, I'm guessing. We're all guessing here. Yeah. That's part of the issue with Kamala. So that it is, kind of vague.
Are you guessing with Trump?
I feel like Trump, it's more clear. So
yeah,
but it's more clearly, and it's, bad. So
what do you mean?
All the things that I talked about.
Does he want? No, look, I think Trump can take a punch. I think Trump will do. It's almost like Trump wants to be called names and stuff.
Well, I don't know. It depends because it's kind of conflicting information. Like Donald Trump is not like, if reading both Fifth Risk and the Mick Masters book, like really paint Trump in a very negative light. Fifth Risk really paints Trump as like just completely inept and incompetent at everything. In McMaster's book, he's painting Trump as he's just a contrarian. He'll just do the opposite of whatever people tell him. And literally McMasterson and other people are manipulating Trump by once they figure that out, they just manipulate him by like using that against Trump to get him to say whatever the fuck they want.
Right. So. Well, I mean, this is a thing because my intuition is Kamala is the same thing, basically. She's just going to be manipulated in a different way. She's not a contrarian. She wants to hear she's doing a great job. So they're going to manipulate her by setting everything up. So she gets a lot of acolytes.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
J Mac, I got fired for $20. Says not even close to as good as Trump's story of sending a picture of Abu Ghani's house to him. Side note, some outlets were reporting that this story was, quote, mostly false, and they quoted their source as the Taliban. Yeah.
Oh my
kind of
God.
silly.
For real? That's crazy.
Yep.
That's quite the reach, right?
Yep.
Honest reporting from the Taliban.
From the Taliban, yeah. Okay. From the beginning, Ocracy for $5 says Trump might not have incentivized lockdowns through COVID relief loans nearly as much as Biden. Same with stimulus checks. I agree with that. Yeah. I don't think Trump would have incentivized lockdowns. So I do agree with that. It's unclear to me whether that would have had a positive or negative effect to the economy, but
Florida didn't do the lockdowns, and I think they did great, right?
but Florida had lockdowns. I think Florida ended their lockdowns just quicker than everyone else.
Before everyone else, yeah.
Right. But in terms of, okay, wait, let me put a pause on that. I think obviously the local economies, if you end the lockdowns, are going to recover quicker. The question was in terms of general inflation. General inflation could actually be worse if you ended lockdowns quicker, at least in theory. So, Brian for $10 says it was both the lockdowns and the surge of money from the stimulus checks and the increase in extended unemployment checks causing inflation, way more money chasing fewer goods. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Christian Ball for $5 says thoughts on defining woke as simply having a persecution complex. I think this helps encompass the woke right and makes it easy to understand.
That is good.
I mean, it does simplify it. I think it might simplify it too much because then like you get into this like insipid gaslighting that the left is doing, where anytime someone who's not on the far left or who's on the right, they talk about, racism against white people. They go, oh, you have a persecution complex. You have this white victimization complex. And I feel like that kind of plays too easily into that exact stereotype, gaslighting, kind of dishonest framing that the left has been doing. So that might be too simple of a way to kind of frame it. I think the American public needs to be aware. And this is, I think it's a problem. I think it's an educational problem. The American public needs to be aware of, quote, what liberalism is or what an American Western democracy is, and that there's forces on the left and the right that want to destroy Western American democracies. And I think until we can get that idea fucking in people's minds, we're going to keep coming back to this again and again and again and again. That's the
problem. Well, they want to take over the culture, which will ultimately destroy it. But
yes,
I don't think they are thinking of it that way. Like they're not thinking, I want to destroy the culture. They're thinking, they're thinking, I want to take over the culture.
No, the woke left,
the culture.
The woke left and the woke right want to destroy liberalism, aka Western liberal democracies.
They want to supplant liberalism.
Yes, they want to destroy it and supplant it with some other system.
Yes, and exactly.
The big reason that the woke left and the woke right are effective is because the overwhelming majority of people don't understand that this is what's happening. They just have no awareness of this whatsoever.
I know, yeah.
And so that to me is what the education of the public needs to be, is this idea.
They're doing their jobs. They're raising their families. They're buying homes and cars.
Right.
They're not paying attention to all this online crap.
Exactly. AKA Batosai for 30 months. Thank you so much. 30 months, Free Will Seeker. Says, Adam, people who are against the death penalty are against the state having the power to take a life, especially a statistically not guilty person.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. And the people who are in favor of the death penalty are in favor of taking a life, especially a piece of shit that deserves it.
Well, some people do who are more libertarian minded, just they're not comfortable giving the state that power, I guess.
Yeah, and that's fine. That is totally fine.
Right.
But I'm not one of those people.
Okay.
I want
But
to hang them high,
I know. But I don't think those people would feel like they are soft on crime.
even though they are.
Okay. Clowny Moose Bead for 17 months of discipline equals freedom. Thank you. Says, can we all thank JMac for all the free memberships and for starting a fitness craze here? I've been going hard for a few months, lost over 30 pounds and gained a
Wow.
sexy mirror reflection. Well, congratulations. That's fantastic.
That
Good on
is
you,
great.
Clowny.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's great. 30
Nothing
pounds,
better
man.
than being happy with what you see in the mirror.
RBGH fan for $5 says AI and fraud makes it difficult to be pro capital punishment. If you could prove 100% accuracy, then yes, I'd be for it in certain circumstances.
Yeah, look, obviously you'd have to have multiple converging lines of evidence. Like you'd have to have like eyewitness and video. Like if just some mysterious video turned up with no eyewitnesses, that would be a little suspicious. So, but there are obviously cases where there are converging lines of evidence. So,
How many years away do you think we are where, well, I guess there's
the
two
family gets to
milestones.
actually commit the.
No, there's two milestones here. How many years away are you where you think the defense is going to try to put into evidence in a criminal trial an AI generated video to exonerate their client? And how many years away are we from the state putting in an AI generated video, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to try to get someone guilty? And we're going to find out about this. Like, oh my God, they used some
Yeah.
AI video.
I mean, it's just a matter of the technology being good enough to fool people. Because
Right.
look, they did that whole
We're already there.
switcheroo thing in the Trayvon Martin case, where the person on the stand wasn't even the
Yeah, that was
real
wild. But
person on the phone.
I
Yeah,
mean, we're already there though. You could very easily create an AI video
I
with
don't
some
think so.
grainy. Oh yeah, of course I've seen it. There's all like very realistic AI videos. It's still, I mean, they're still like a little weird quality of them. But if you put the little grainy filter over them, like it's a security camera or something, you could
Yeah, but you'd
100% do
have to
that.
have the chain of custody. You'd be like, okay, this person was standing here when they recorded this person's name.
Right.
Look, they do all that chain of custody stuff with the evidence in every case.
I know.
What would the chain of custody be with
Well,
the
you'd have to make
AI
it up. You'd
thing?
have to fake it up, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
No, but so that's what I'm asking you. How far away you think we are when suddenly you're going to start seeing AI fakes creep up in these criminal court cases? Because I think we're only a couple years away from that, having to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, the difficult thing would be obviously the chain of custody. So, look, if you saw someone, if you're getting like video evidence of an alibi from someone's mom, I mean, you're like, okay, well, maybe this is like AI generated or stuff, right? It's a chain of custody that's
Yeah, but you could just be
important.
like, oh, I filmed this video on my phone and it shows that this person's innocent, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you can have like your friend just lie about it. And you just have the video as like an alibi to them doing a headstand at the time that they're supposed to, while drinking beer at the time that they're supposed to be committing the murder or something, right?
Sure, yeah.
Or they have some Ring footage. Say, well, this came from my Ring camera or whatever, and I downloaded it before it got auto deleted by Ring.
That could be traced, obviously.
Then, well,
They
maybe. I don't
would
know how. I don't know if
subpoena
like
the Ring servers and all that shit.
I don't know if Ring. I don't know how long Ring servers maintain footage or anything. So there'll be ways to get around it.
We'll see.
Anyways, Ace for $10 says laws are designed to deter more crime and to keep more people safe in the process, not to make other people feel better. Therapy can help you feel better much more so than the death penalty.
I fundamentally disagree. So, look, you can disagree all you want with me, but I don't care about the deterrence of the death penalty. Like that doesn't even figure into my calculus. So I know a lot of people who are in favor of the death penalty use deterrence as an argument. I'm not one of those people. Look, I don't
Right.
care if it does deter people or not. Like even if the deterrence is zero, I don't care. I think the family, the situation with the family weighs far heavier than me.
Brian for $10 says, if I remember, she's against the death penalty because in her view, it is unfairly applied with racial disparities and the possibility of executing innocent people being her apparent reason.
Yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
right.
If you have like an article or a clip of her talking about that, send it my way. Cause I just haven't really seen it. I just seen her just talking about that she was against it really, but not really the explanation. Brian for $5 says Adam's argument could exist under prosecutorial discretion. Yeah, but
That's what I said.
isn't prosecutorial discretion simply the discretion to even handle a case or charge a case in the first place?
And what you charge it with, yeah.
Right, but that's not what we're talking about. I mean, I guess I think what he means is you're adding an extra layer of prosecutorial discretion.
The layer already exists. It's already there.
No, it doesn't.
Why?
We're not going to get into that argument.
So look, Kamala Harris chose not to seek the death penalty. She could have chose to seek the death penalty. What is the discrepancy there? What would you call that other than prosecutorial discretion?
But on the base, okay, but that's on the basis. What I'm saying is I don't think it's there. It exists in the basis of the amount of evidence that exists for a crime. That's what I'm unaware of, if that's possible or not.
But he's saying it could exist. Like they could, in prosecutorial discretion, the prosecutor take the weight of the evidence into consideration. Kamala Harris is choosing to take her own personal opinion on the death penalty into consideration instead of the weight of the evidence.
How is sweet? Because when I read that thing, it said that the overwhelming majority of states, the jury decides. What does it even mean if she says she's not going to? Does it mean just like that she's not going to push for it, but the jury can still do it? What does that even mean in the state of California?
The jury decides at the sentencing phase?
I don't know.
Look, we should get an attorney on to talk about this stuff.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's too much about this. I just don't know, like literally how this all takes place. But
right.
Okay.
Look for you libertarians out there who are like, I don't like the state being able to kill somebody. Is it okay if the state just steps aside and the family murders the killer? Is that acceptable? Because then it's just a private situation.
What? I don't think most people would agree that you don't really want to have like a vigilante justice situation.
Well, this is why you get into vigilante justice situations when people perceive the state being unfair. That's what causes the vigilante justice.
Well, it can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean necessarily the state is being unfair. It's the perception of it.
Well, if it's not the state and just it's a private matter and the private parties settle it.
Yeah, but the whole point is that we don't.
For all.
Yeah, but the whole point is that we don't trust the private parties to be able to settle those extrajudicial disputes. That's the entire point of the police and the court system, and not taking the law into your own hands.
This has come up before, and I think there's some famous cases where, like, the father ends up murdering the guy who murdered his son, and the jury just doesn't convict him. They're like,
yeah, but right, you can have
you
can have a situation where there are extraneous circumstances where either the state decides not to press charges or the jury decides to let them go, and that's fine. I'm not against that. I'm just saying you don't want to make that like the actual law of the land that dictates, oh, you can just go murder someone for revenge purposes. Like you don't want that to be encoded in our law.
No, I wasn't talking about making it the law.
Oh, okay. Then I guess
look, and we can set it up in that way too. Like, let's just say the family comes in and murders the murderer, and the state charges them, and the jury doesn't convict them. They walk away.
Well, they can do that already.
Are you comfortable with that, libertarians? Is that right. Justice?
Mm.
Is that acceptable?
Well, if you're libertarian and you say, yeah, right, because it's not the state.
Yeah, look, that's what. That's exactly why I set up this experiment. Yeah, exactly. Look, it's not the state anymore. It's the private parties settling their affairs on their own. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Can we hire hitmen?
Perfect.
To take. I want Judge Dredd on my block.
Okay, gotcha. PC for $5 says, aren't there already two levels of guilt between criminal and civil? I thought that was the argument with Trump's sexual assault trial. Interesting topic. Yes, there are. I don't know what the exact percentage is supposed to be, but for civil liability, it's much lower. It's like I don't know, 51, 60% or something. I thought for a criminal, it's supposed to be like 99%. So. Stoic for $5 says, jumping off of PC's point, quote, beyond all possible doubt, for instance, should not philosophically undermine beyond all reasonable doubt to my mind. I mean, I agree.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's
Sure.
a higher level. That's a higher threshold, obviously.
I guess it would be interesting if you had these two sort of, you could do it. I just don't think we have in this country where we have like, you're guilty beyond all possible or all reasonable. I don't know. You'd say we have beyond reasonable doubt. You'd say, okay, you don't get the death penalty. Beyond possible doubt, you'd get the death penalty, right? I guess you could construct a system like that. I'm not even opposed to that. I just don't think we live in that system currently. So.
That's what I was saying. When we can change the law, we could totally change the law. We can't with this mainstream media in the tank for all the tree huggers.
I don't know if you could. I don't know if you'd have to change it on a federal level or a state level. I guess it all depend on how the Supreme Court interprets, these issues.
Did you hear Kamala say the hug a thug line?
I did hear that. Yes, that's pretty funny. The hug a thug line. Yeah.
Well, I've never heard that before. I never heard it
either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oxy for $5 says, Sitch, when it comes to death penalty, the nature of the intent of the criminal would be determined by more extensive evidence, proof of motive, etc. The nature of the intent of the criminal would be determined by more extensive evidence?
Yeah, evidence for motive would be like they searched Google for some incriminating thing.
Yeah, of course, right? Like, you have more evidence that you could have stronger evidence to prove stronger the case of what their intent was. Yeah, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
Of course.
Like if they Googled insurance money for murdering my wife.
Right, exactly.
Like, oh, look, they probably were doing it for the insurance money.
So that's actually related to a story that happened over the weekend, or was it yesterday? Which was, I guess it was yesterday. There's this crazy story. So the DOJ was trying to charge Ryan, what was his name? Ryan Ruth? The guy that tried to kill Trump. Adam, are you there?
I don't know his name.
Okay. Ryan Ruth was his name, yeah. They're trying to charge him with attempted murder. In his defense, his defense lawyers are trying to fight that. And so part of the way in which the state is trying to prove that he intended to kill Donald Trump was with this weird manifesto letter that he left some person that talked about, trying to pay people to literally take out Donald Trump, right? I'm sure you've heard about this story.
Wow.
Right?
I'm hearing about it now. It's great.
Oh, you didn't hear about this story? Okay.
I heard like rumblings of it, but
okay. So there was a person who received a letter, and that's kind of weird because they're saying that that Ruth dropped a box at a person's home like months ago, and inside of it was ammunition, random materials, and various letters. And that person had not opened this box. They're just like keeping it for Ryan Ruth. They hadn't opened the box until after Ryan Ruth tried to shoot Donald Trump, and it all became public. Then they opened it and said, what the fuck is in this box, right? This is what they're claiming.
Of course you would. You'd open it immediately.
Right. No, obviously. So they said, so then it came out that one of the letters in the box is addressed to, quote, the world. And it says in it, quote, this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I can muster. It is up to you now to finish the job. I will offer $150,000 to whoever can complete the job. Okay. So this creates two issues. Number one, obviously, this is the ultimate kill shot for the state to say he intended to kill Donald Trump because he's literally saying it that he intended to kill Donald Trump.
Yeah, he failed.
Right. Yeah. But then this creates a second problem, which is then people say, wait a minute, why would you have this information on the public that there's a psychopath out there who's willing to offer anyone a large amount of money in order to kill Donald Trump? Isn't that highly irresponsible for the Department of Justice to release out in the public? To which I actually agree.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Completely. And it was funny. There was our good friend, Bill Barr. he actually was interviewed about this or released a statement about this to Fox News or some other outlet. And he was saying how crazy this was because they could have used this as evidence for their case, which they'd want to
Without
do.
releasing it to the public.
But yes, but have this information redacted or had this information under seal so that could still be used in the case, but not, be so widespread, which
But
is
is
kind
it-
of
Look,
saying
is
that they
it
didn't do that.
is it incompetence?
Well, that's
is
the
it-
argument, is that
yeah.
people are now saying, well, were they trying to do this intentionally to incentivize other people to try to shoot Donald Trump? Right. That's the argument.
Oh my God.
I'm more inclined to believe in competence because I'm generally more inclined to believe in competence in all things. And also, it's kind of like, I mean, why would you think a guy who's in jail is going to be able to pay you anything?
Look, I'm ambivalent. I would have to know the person. Like if the
Right.
person had massive TDS, I would say, okay,
Yes.
that was fucking deliberate.
Hmm.
If the
Well, I guess
if the
that's true.
person
Who's
was a
handling the case?
dumbass,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that was incompetence. But I couldn't make a determination just off the cuff.
That is fair. Yeah. And obviously, I don't know if the person who's handling the case made a decision. I don't know. I don't know if their name is public, but that would be something to investigate. If you go on their timeline and you see it's nothing but TDS, then you'd be more inclined to believe malice. So.
Right. If they're a Trump voter, you think, okay, well, it's fucking incompetence.
Well, obviously, if that's the case, yeah. So that's a good question. Has that guy's name, has the state's attorney that made the decision to post this information been released at all? Because I have no fucking
Sitch
clue.
is already like, let's find
I'm curious.
out.
That's a good way to try to figure it out. So
Yeah, let's check out his Twitter. See how terrible. We need to know what his ringtone is.
right.
If it's anything to do with coconuts, we're fucking
There you
that
go.
guy's guilty.
There you go. Mike Mills for $10 says you can be against the death penalty because it's not self-defense, but be willing to fight terrorists because it is self-defense. It doesn't make you soft on crime. Hasn't Harris been super pro Ukraine and Israel? That's great points. So they're all great points.
It is self-defense.
If you're saying like he's saying that the death penalty isn't self-defense, where blowing up terrorists is self-defense.
Right.
So
Well, if you're hitting them before they actually do anything, though, right?
well, that's the idea.
If you're
yeah.
neutralizing a potential threat
right.
before the fact.
Well, with terrorists, it's easy because you're either A, neutralizing them before the fact, or B, even if it's after the fact, you're potentially preventing them from doing something again in the future.
Right.
So
Wouldn't we have to look up the racial makeup of all of the terrorists that were being targeted
no,
to make sure that we
don't
weren't
think so.
inequitably targeting terrorists?
I don't think so. The Justice 35 for $10 says instead of the death penalty, people should be sentenced to listen to Adam talk about his voting stance.
That's pretty good.
Also, being anti-death penalty is not soft on crime. That's a silly position. S-class forever. There you go. Thank you.
Look, if I could talk him to death, I would. I'll do my part.
Stug for $5 says clarification standard for things like reasonable doubt versus possible doubt should not undermine innocent until proven guilty. It's independent.
Of course. That's what I was saying.
Right. RBGH fam for $5 says the problem I have with Constantine is he lumps in people who are anti-war for higher profit margins as somehow anti-patriotic of the woke right. Maybe I haven't, I don't know exactly all the things that Constantine uses to lump in. It gets confused because it's like one of those all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares situation. Like all the woke right people are on the anti-war side, but obviously there's lots of people on the anti-war side that are not the woke right. So
yeah,
it can create a lot of, complications. Oxy for $5 says there's nothing I hate more than the moderate left attempting to both sides wokeness. Well,
what does that mean?
He's talking about Constantine here because he wants to call it the woke right. But you see, I don't know why that bothers you so much, because you have this weird thing on the right, which is this anti-liberal philosophical toxic thing that's basically trying to suck people on the right down into its depths, literally the exact same way the woke left has been doing this whole time. Why is it wrong with calling that out? The only problem with calling that out is when, you have bad actors on the left who will just call everything woke right. Just as you had bad actors on the right calling everything woke left. So Jay Hendricks for $2 says incontrovertible AI generated evidence. There you go.
Let me discuss that.
Stuck for $5 says I can't support Kissinger because he said America was only better than almost every country in the world. Oh my God, did he say?
Did he really say that? What a fucking dick!
What a piece of shit! How dare he? What's the better country? And we ain't talking about Britbong.
Yeah, get out of here. You
Kyle
can't even
Vernon
do obnoxious tweets there without getting arrested.
Right. I gave a more lengthy explanation on Twitter, so I'll bring it up in a second. Kyle Vernon for $10 says Trump didn't throw out half the country's votes. It was less than 50,000 votes in 4 states. If it really was true, the media would be talking about 24/7, but they don't. Sitch is in an echo chamber. Well, first of all, you're conceptualizing this completely wrong. If half the country votes for Joe Biden, or more than half the country, obviously, if it's from the popular vote, but let's just say like 51% of the country votes for Joe Biden, and Donald Trump does a maneuver that essentially switches the election results, then he has thrown out half the country's votes. Doesn't matter if he's only throwing out 50,000 votes to get the desired outcome. The end result is that he's throwing out half the country's votes. He's saying your votes are nullified and don't count per the end results. So I don't know why you're splitting hairs on that. Number two, it's kind of hilariously ironic that someone on the right, that a magatard such as yourself, your defense would be, well, the mainstream media isn't pushing something, so therefore you're wrong. When your entire worldview narrative is that the mainstream media is retarded, lying, and dishonest. So if the mainstream media was talking about this 24/7, which they do, they just use other words. They say Donald Trump, January 6th, start the democracy, blah, 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 right? You wouldn't suddenly believe me at all. So I don't even know why. Like, this is one of the most like dumb things to bring up in a conversation when you're debating someone and you bring up a point where if the point wasn't true, you still, like, even if your point was reversed, you still wouldn't take the other side. That's how you know you're being dishonest in the conversation. So, but feel free to come on and make an actual argument. So instead of a dumb shit,
I'll send you the link right now, Kyle.
a
DM
dumb
me.
shit comment. So Stuck for $2 says it's not a black box with Trump. It's an orange box. Oh my God. Stug, does that mean if Donald Trump wins that we're all going to get Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 3 and Team Fortress 3? Because we'll get the orange box re-released? Listen, if that's the case,
a good reason to vote for Donald Trump, right?
I was going to say,
that's
the
your
case,
decisive reason.
Maybe I'll vote for Donald Trump if we can get an orange box going.
All right. That's going to be on Destiny's subreddit later.
There you go. Alex Wright for $5 says Sitch looking to Executive Order 13957 in the GAO report. Then look into the recruitment on the Project 2025 page. You guys could apply on stream. What?
Oh, nice. We can become members of Project 2025. I don't know. I'm not really a joiner.
13. What is this?
Sounds like that might come back to haunt me someday. Look, he's very much in favor of the death penalty, and he's a member of Project 2025.
Executive Order 13957, creating Schedule F in the accepted services, was a presidential executive order by Donald Trump. It directed agencies to reclassify federal civil service employees in the competitive service who serve in policy-related roles as members of the accepted service. Well, I don't know what that all means, but I'm assuming it has to do with the concept of like trying to recast non-partisan federal employees as partisan ones. I'm assuming, judging by the context of what you're saying. So
yeah, I talked on stream about how do we sign up, because that would be great content, right?
That would be.
And Alex is saying, here's how you sign up. Go over there and sign up.
The order instructed agencies to reclassify competitive service employees who serve in, quote, confidential policy-determined policymaking or policy advocating positions that are not normally subject to change as a result of a presidential transition as members of the newly created Schedule F within the accepted services. So there you go. So I guess that seems Donald Trump has already attempted to do this or did do it.
Yeah. They mentioned that in the documentary. That documentary I wanted to watch, but we never did. The zany one about Project 2025.
Right. Well, that definitely hurts the case, and definitely, that definitely hurts the case against Trump, saying he's not going to do some of the things in Project 2025 if he's already done them.
Yeah, that's why he distanced himself from it so
Right.
vociferously.
Mm-hmm. Did it go into, let's see, it was repealed by Biden. It was created on October 21st, 2020. So like right before the election. So nothing really get anything going there. Interesting. And then it was repealed by Biden. The third day of his administration. Well, there you go.
Well, there it is.
Maj for $5 says Maj proposes we ship asylum seekers and illegals to an oil rig for processing. Can we call it Outer Haven? Adam, you have Sitch on the ropes. There you go. You just got to send them all to the oil rig.
Oh, is that where we deport them to?
That's apparently for processing, for quote processing.
Okay.
Gay Band for $2 says, quote, no Trump, no wall, no USA at all. The Democrats. There you go. I like it. Ace for $5 says, Adam, this is the reason why DGG losers won't stop talking about you on Reddit. You say things that make little to no sense, but to you.
I mean, I think everyone pretty much understood what I was talking about. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the drooling mouth breathers over on Reddit don't understand it, but I think normal human beings can.
TL1524 for $10 says, I disagree with both of you. I think we're now in the stage of revenge politics where any policy one-sided places as an issue, the other will try to take it away by passing something to steal it away. That'd be kind of funny. If it's like the reverse of blocking, instead, whenever someone wants policy, the other side just tries to steal it and pass it first. I mean, wouldn't that be better than just blocking everything, right? The other side just tries to steal the policy and pass it.
It's such a tricky dance that you have to do, and it's all the incentives really are there for the party whose coalition wants it really bad to pass it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, I mean, that's why healthcare got passed, right? Because of all the Democrats were like united. We got to fucking do something about healthcare. It's the Care Harm Foundation. It's our chief moral intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Republicans are standing in the way because they don't want the Democrats to get a win. I'm sure they would love to. Well, you know, if their coalition doesn't even really want healthcare reform, they're like, the free market is handling all this. But with immigration, I just, it really is the Republicans that want to do something about immigration. They're thirsty for it. They're so hungry to do something about it.
Catch for $2 says, is the big tent good or bad for Republicans? I mean, I think it's generally good. It's, a bigger tent generally moderates your positions. So,
yeah, it makes it easier to win elections too.
Right. Because you have a bunch of competing interests. Death by Sloth for 30 months. Thanks so much. As I recently made fun of Adam in the comments for using a word wrong. So, Sitch, please define insipid and then look it up. Parasocial love to both of you. Isn't insipid mean something like you think it's gross? Isn't that what
I can't? I wish I could remember the comment specifically, but we did.
I don't remember what I said I don't remember when I used it, but I thought insipid means gross. What does it mean?
Insipid. Lacking taste, flavor, or tang.
Well, that's close enough.
Lacking interest.
Yeah. Okay.
Bland.
I mean, I guess it's a little off because it says dull or boring as opposed to gross, so it's like a specific type of grossness. So I don't remember what context I used it, but there you go. Thank you, Death by Sloth.
Did you use that word incorrectly today? Where's the super
I used
chat?
it today. I don't remember exact context I used it today. But
that wasn't the word you made fun of me. And look, the word you made fun of me for using wrong, I actually used correctly.
What was the word? I don't even.
I can't. I wish I could remember it, but I can't. It's been like maybe a week or so. But Death by Sloth always leaves really good comments. Where is AKA Matosu always leaves great comments.
Tosai.
Matosai, okay. Always leaves great comments. There are certain people that are just like ringers. PC always leaves good comments. There are certain people that are really just ringers in the comment section. So,
Edward Senior for $10 says, "Does this election flip the adage vote for the devil you know to vote for the devil you don't?" I mean, maybe
for
it does for
Sitch,
some
it
people.
definitely does.
That's funny. That's funny. I mean, it's true. That's interesting.
I'm leaning more towards vote for the devil I know.
Okay. Mr. Ubercross for $10. Thank you. Says Sitch, if the left continues the attacks levied against Trump against a Romney style. Wait. If the left continues the attacks levied against Trump, parentheses, against a Romney style Republican, would that change your calculation on things? It appears these attacks have been levied for decades against the right. So the left does attack the right, different levels of attack the right, oh my God. Just got a phone alert here. But they're different. What was I saying? Oh, the left attacks the right and calls them racist and has been doing this for a long time, blah, 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 blah. But I think you would acknowledge, I think everyone would have to acknowledge that the level and energy and the amount of these kind of visceral attacks against Trump that the left and the media has been making, like any attacks against Romney pale in comparison than that they've done to Trump. Like the media, the left-wing media was not fair to Romney with the women full of binders things and stuff like that. But that's all just pales in comparison to just the continual attacks on Donald Trump. The entire media apparatus, changed philosophical beliefs to wokeness in order to attack Donald Trump. So, but yes, if we had like Nikki Haley or even DeSantis or someone who was a Republican, and it was just like the woke attacks were just as crazy and they won, and then the woke attacks just came up, then if that happens and there's no change, then I'd say, yes, the Democrats, the party, are just lost forever. So it needs to be reconstituted. Where was I? Orca for 2 hours says, "Saw Am I Racist? More misses than hits, in my opinion." There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I still need to see it.
I went and saw it.
Kyle Vernon for $5 says, "Kamala isn't a radical or a moderate. She's a chameleon, power-hungry woman who slept, cheated, and backstabbed her way to the top. Far more dangerous." I mean, I agree that she's a chameleon. Definitely, I've said that from the beginning. That's definitely that's definitely the vibe I get from what she says and what she's been saying for a lot of her career. So, D5280 for $2 says, "Leaning into woke is easy. She won't switch up." I mean, she's already switched up. I don't know how you can say that.
To get elected.
Okay.
Like,
well then, but that the person said it is too easy. She won't switch up, and she's literally already done it. So,
yeah, because the stakes are the election. Like those stakes go away. Granted, there is her re-election to think about, but I'm not so sure how that plays out. She's got a lot of time, a lot of wiggle room over 4 years.
We will see. If Kamala runs as a moderate, wins, goes super woke, there's no way she's going to win in 2028 at that point. Because Donald Trump's not going to be in the race. It's going to be some random Republican. They're not going to have that energy, basically. First of all, even if Kamala doesn't run woke,
how do you know it's not going to be Donald Trump?
Unless she's literally like the best president ever, I don't think she's going to win re-election anyway.
How do you know it's not going to be Donald Trump?
Well, if it's Donald Trump, then the Republican Party is totally fucking lost. It's what is going to just be destroyed because can't ever fucking shake Donald Trump. So
that's so. Oh God, please.
He could lose 3 elections, and they're still going to keep choosing this fucking retard. So we'll see.
In December,
right?
If Donald Trump is talking about running in 2028, please somebody just kill me. Put me out of my misery, please.
Meta Rules 81 for 2 hours says, "Thoughts on the clash between Destiny and Critical Drinker?" So,
well, I didn't know there was a clash. What's the background here? Do you know?
The only thing that I know, there was a single tweet that I saw about this. I don't know if I can find it again. because I'm blocked from Destiny, so I can't even like see. I couldn't even really see what the thing is that we were responding to. I had to see like a screenshot of it. Speaking of, did you see there's going to be this new rule change on Twitter where if you block
I
someone,
did, yeah.
they'll still be able to see your tweets. They just can't react to them or respond to them.
Which is probably good. I mean, that's fine. I
It's a
figure everyone's
weird
looking at them
change.
anyway because they're just like going to some other browser. I want them. I just want to stop interacting with them. So that's fine change by me.
Right. It is kind of a weird change. Some people were suggesting it only existed because they want to make it so you can't block ads from appearing.
Oh yeah, which I do a lot. So that makes sense.
But I feel like if that was the case, you
Just
like
make it so you can't block ads.
just makes it you can't block ads, right? Like
Right.
unless maybe in the way it's programmed, you can't actually do that. I have no clue. I know they said that Twitter's program is like a rat's nest entangled, so maybe they can do that. Okay, here's the origin of the controversy that I saw. I don't know if it expanded.
Can you send it to me? Can I bring it up?
It's too many quote tweets.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be easier for me to just read it.
Just
okay,
read it out.
someone tweeted out, someone named Rova tweeted out men's mental health fitness matters like 20 times. Okay.
Okay. So obviously they're having a mental health episode.
Well, I think they're a woman, at least judging by their avatar. Okay, and that got 52,000 likes. Then someone quote tweeted that saying, if men's mental health mattered to men, they'd be creating safe spaces for themselves and each other, pursuing therapy and creating community. Instead, they perpetuate the very behavior systems that have handicapped them in the first place, refuse to support or create communities amongst each other, severely damage the women in their lives who try to care for them, and attack women online for not doing the work for them in replies to tweets like the one below, LOL.
So that obviously is a bitch.
Yeah, so that's obviously a dumb, woke, feminist retard who understands absolutely nothing about men, which shouldn't surprise anyone.
It's probably a trans male.
Right. Well, I think it's a woman. So,
hold on. I said trans man.
Okay. I think it's a biological cis woman. So, and that tweet got 160,000 likes. Okay.
Wow. So these numbers are so off the charts.
Right. So then Critical Drinker weighed in and he's quote tweeted that and said, people like you made it literally impossible for men to have any spaces, hobbies, clubs, interest groups, or social spaces of their own. People like you mandated that women must be included in everything they think and do. And now people like you berate them for not having the very things they were prevented from having. People like you are the problem.
Man, I have trouble disagreeing with Critical Drinker on anything.
Yes. Yes. Well, I agree with everything you said. I think the issue is slightly more complicated. It's not just that there are women in men's spaces. It's that there are women's in men's spaces, and there's this idea that men must conform to women's social interaction
intuitions.
Style.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. As opposed to, it's interesting because I was watching this old show again, and it was like a cop show, and you had like some female police on the force, and they're all interacting with the male police in a very masculine way, like making the sex jokes and fucking with each other and doing all these things. And I think that's really what's happened, is that essentially when a woman was in a man's space, she had to adopt to sort of the male interaction style. And now it's like, no, men have to do all the female interaction styles in all spaces at all times. So
yeah, even in their own spaces where no women are.
Right.
Just so they don't propagate the toxic masculinity.
Right. So that's the only, while I agree with everything Critical Drinker says, I think it's a little bit slightly different issue. You can have them in the spaces, but it's the adhering to feminine styles of interaction. It's the problem.
Right.
But anyway, so his tweet got 56,000 likes. So not as much as the other ones, but still a lot of positive coverage.
Man, that's crazy.
Right. So then Destiny responded to that saying, isn't the problem right now that we're too segregated into our own spaces? Shouldn't we want more environments where men and women are interacting with each other? Maybe you're speaking for yourself when you say you don't want women included in any of these spaces.
Oh my God.
So
make it stop.
Well, this is a problem, is that like if he had left off that last sentence, it could be just it's a legitimate form of conversation, because then you could say, well, maybe Destiny's thought process is the spaces are too segregated, so men and women don't know how to interact with each other, so they need to learn to interact with each other. And then you would say, well, the problem is right now the idea is that men have to bow down and just interact with women on their terms 100%, and women don't believe they have to interact with men on men's terms at all, right? But
Right.
then he throws in that last sentence, which is which changes the entire framing of the tweet to be like this insult against critical drinker, to sort of play into the whole you're a sexist, racist piece of shit stereotype that the weird left people have been throwing at critical drinker unfairly for, years.
Yeah.
So,
Generations.
right. So Destiny only got 4,500 likes on that one. So essentially less. Critical
All
drinker.
Reddit users.
Right. So critical drinker responded to that with that picture, the famous picture of like Destiny sitting there with ABBA and his
I
girlfriend or
know.
his wife at the
Look,
time dancing behind him.
Here you go. Here's your co-ed space, dude.
Right. Right. And he said, speaking of spaces where men and women interact with each other, ... 37,000 likes. So
Oh my God.
kind of
You knew that was coming though, right?
I mean, he kind of utterly nuked him from orbit with that one. So there you go.
Wow.
And then he replied under it again, where he zoomed in on Destiny's face in the picture.
Oh my God. That picture is how you know Destiny is not a psychopath.
Oh,
because you can tell he's got some feelings going on there.
Right. Well, I think he even said the feelings were not that he didn't like it. The feelings that he knew that people were going to meme on it going forward.
Of course. So. Yeah. He knew it was. Well, I guess you can be a psychopath and still be worried about your reputation, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Look, he could still be a psychopath.
So anyway, so yes, but was there that's the last I saw of that interaction. Was there a further interaction beyond that chat? I don't know if it kind of went beyond that. So that was pretty devastating. Though I don't know, because I responded to a different drinker tweet about how dishonest the people were being when they were like trying to conflate him talking about keeping politics off of art and then him talking about the Matt Walsh movie, about how it's so dishonest to compare like a Marvel movie to some kind of documentary / mockumentary movie. Like everyone knows what's the difference between this.
Yeah, it's like going to see a Christian movie. You're like, oh, they're trying to hit me over the head with Christianity. Well, it's a fucking Christian movie. What'd you walk into the movie theater for? Right.
And I had a handful. The majority of people overwhelmingly agreed with me, but a handful of like these like really retarded. Maybe I would say insipid. That would be wrong because insipid would be flavorless. And I was thinking gross. So there you go. There's me using it incorrectly. I had a handful of like really stupid, flavorful retards respond to it in this ultra dishonest way. And someone told me on Twitter, like, oh, someone posted this in Destiny's subreddit. So I don't know if Destiny's subreddit's all mad about Critical Drinker now because he annihilated Destiny on X or something. But
oh yeah. The subreddit really works Destiny, right? I mean, that's how.
I don't know. Seems like it.
I mean, he's trying to cater to an audience, so and the subreddit is like, this is what we would like, sir.
Destiny went on a podcast with YMS and talked about the situation and propagated the same idea that YMS was doing and was really, I'm assuming he put bitchy because it's B, but then cut out. So this is a recent podcast?
Well, we talked to YMS and YMS does not like Critical Drinker. So, that might not be fair. He's critical of Critical Drinker's content. I don't know that he has a personal opinion about Critical Drinker.
My take from it is that YMS completely believes, he buys into the weird narrative of Critical Drinkers, just this like right-wing political dishonest person that has been kind of cultivated.
Well, I didn't see anything. I haven't seen anything to lead me to believe that about YMS. So I don't think he would throw the charge dishonest. I think they have political differences, but I don't know that I've heard YMS call Drinker dishonest. Imagine says YMS hates drinker. Well, maybe you watch more YMS content than me though. So
Where's it's is an old well, is it an old podcast or a new podcast? Because I know he talked to YMS like months ago. But are you talking about is that what you're talking about? Or are you saying there's like a new podcast where they talked about the current situation?
send the link.
If there's a recent one, send the link. So
Just occurred to me that I hadn't even checked my Twitter, even though I said the super chatter could come on. Oh, good. They didn't message me.
shocking.
It's so fucking hot in here. What's going
He
on?
spent hours on
Austin?
EFAP talking about drinker. Yeah, I remember that, but that was a while ago. So.
Yeah, and YMS came on here after that, and we defended drinker, and YMS was not really throwing drinker under the bus.
If he wasn't really, yeah, but it felt like he didn't agree, but wasn't really willing to get into a fight about it. That's kind of my vibe of the situation.
Right.
So,
well, that's cool. It's not gonna. I don't know though. Maybe he's on his show. He's constantly talking mad shit about critical drinker. Well, I like critical drinkers content. I think he understands movies, and I think ultimately he respects the power of conflict.
there is well, you don't have to, if it's the old podcast, you don't have to find it. I'm just only interested in the new, because I've seen the old one. I'm only interested if it's a new one. But there's like this very unfair stereotype meme that's been generated that critical drinker is a big sexist racist and a hypocrite. And it's so annoying because it feels like it's like the most gaslighty, insane, like dishonest people that are proposing this. And I don't know if the people pushing it, there's like two groups of people. There's the people that know they're like hyper dishonest, they're hyper dishonest leftists pushing this narrative about drinker. And then there's also people that are like, they're on the left, but they're more like the normies on the left, and they don't understand like what's going on. And so they get sucked into just repeating these dumb fuck narratives that they've heard from other left wing content creators. So
Yeah,
we
they
might,
think he's Matt Walsh.
right. And we might cover some of that content creators next Sunday, because that guy, I've heard his channel name. That guy made a bunch of like weird drinker videos that I think are worth covering because they're so crazy.
His channel is called The Birdman.
Is that what it is? Bird brain.
Exposing the
something?
grift of the critical drinker is the one I sent you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
One of you guys sent it to me. One of the Sitch and Adam community. I should get better
Right.
with people's names.
Well, that was on I don't know if you remember, and when I talked about what we were going to talk about last Sunday, I said it was going to be the things that we talked about, or we could go into the bird brain videos. So which I still
Let's
want to
do
at some
that.
point.
People are getting tired of us arguing over election stuff.
Right. Right.
Well, it's
So.
actually, I'm not sure people are getting tired. Like, I think we made quite a few super chats today. So,
well, it's crazy too, because that bird guy went on actual fandom and what's the other guy? Dane and Organized Chaos stream.
did
and
he?
talk to them. Yeah.
And blew him for
Yeah,
25
and it was
minutes?
and it was weird because I don't know, and I am curious. I don't know what's up with the bird brain guy, because is it bird brain or bird man? Because I'm not actually trying to like make fun of him. I don't know what the channel name is.
I think it's the Bird Man. I just clicked on it, but here it's the Bird Man.
Okay. So I don't really know what's up with the Birdman, because he claims in his video where he's criticizing critical drinker that he's not like this guy he's not interested in politics. And so it's like, is that actually true, or is he lying? Because I'm like, I don't know. But then it's weird because then he goes and talks to actual fandom and Organized Chaos. And those guys are literal leftists who lie to our faces about their political positions, if you recall, when they talk to us. Because when we talk to them, they're like, we're not leftists. We're just like kind of like liberals who are maybe some kind of progressive. And then I forget, one of you guys sent us a clip where they were talking about the conversation later, and they acknowledged that they just lied straight up to our faces about that, like they're way further
I
to the
forgot
left than they
about
said
that.
to us. Right.
I
And they were just
totally
playing
forgot about
stupid
that.
when they were having the conversation about what is wokeness, what is, the illiberal left and all this other stuff. So yeah, so it's weird. So when the Birdman guy says this, I'm like, is this true? Martin says he calls him a chud. Well, if he calls him a chud, then that makes it sound like he's got to be in the bread tube space, because I don't think the normal, non-politically tapped in person is aware of that insult in the first place.
I brought up his video just so I could see what the Destiny clip is in here. Of course, he's got to like throw a Destiny clip in there.
We're just getting started.
Conservatives do this thing where they'll sit in a room, they'll watch a girl and a guy go into the other room, and they'll hear her screaming for 30 minutes and then come back out.
Oh, you must have turned the watch together off.
I did, because I had to restart the, but I'll go back to
Bring it up. What are you doing? We're trying to have a show here, Sitch.
Like bloodied and bruised, and you'll be like, bro, did that guy just beat the shit out of her? And the conservatives will look you in the eye, dead in the eye, into the ovals of your soul. They will look into you and they will say, I didn't actually see it happen. Did you? How can you improve that? Like, why would you assume that? Do you even fucking know? Like, they're the most shameless bad faith people need. They're shameless.
One of the
I mean, you could easily say that about everyone on the left. I mean, you would be talking about the far left, insane people that Destiny hates, but you could easily say all of the left is shameless.
Right,
Liberals are shameless. Of course, they're shameless. The most bad faith, shameless people on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, everyone's always very careful when they're talking about their side, right? Oh my God, that's the far left. That's not me.
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, if this guy's saying I'm not political, and then he plays that clip. I mean,
yeah, of course, he's listening to Destiny 24/7. I'm not political. I just listen to Destiny. He's a moderate.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Wink, wink.
Whatever you say, yeah. So that's pretty obnoxious. Like, which is if the guy wants to be like on the far left or whatever, just say so.
Yeah,
you don't have to lie about it. So. Anyways, so I don't know. So we'll probably cover his stuff on Sunday,
which will be fun.
Crazy. Electro for $10 or for $30. Thank you. Says S-Class is best class. When I work downtown, I see more than dozens of Kamala signs and one Trump sign. When near more country, I've seen only Trump signs. If I had a beanie, I would be confused. There you go. Like that.
Throwing and also shade at the beanie, man.
Shade at the beanie. Lecture also says, I can't wait until you guys talk to someone like Hutch about what is woke. Then you guys bring up the woke right, which would likely make his mind crumble, because I would bet he believes woke equals liberalism. Maybe we should. I mean, Hutch is kind of super in the left-wing bubble. I would be curious. I feel like this is the problem. I don't feel like you can talk to anyone in that space. I don't feel like you're gonna get an honest answer from any of them, because they're too fixated on the election that you're not talking to a real person at this point. You're talking to like a facsimile of, I need to get my preferred political candidate to win the election.
Yeah, they're just basically saying whatever needs to be said to get their person elected.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. Look, I also think, morality binds and blinds applies to Hutch like times 10.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I think he's got blinders on for everything.
Right.
So that
Jay
makes
Hendricks,
having a conversation difficult about politics.
Will be fun. I mean, it'd be funny. Just curious.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Jay Hendricks for $2 says, bring back duels. There you go.
Look, I'm in favor of that.
J Mac, our Sega 5 for $20 says, Sitch, did you see any of the Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering drama? I did not. People are pissed. Me too. If I want to do Commander Night at my LGS, I have to remove cards from some of my decks. Even Tim Pool was going off on his main show last night. Shiz crazy.
Really?
No, wait. I don't know.
There's like some sexist cards in the deck or something.
What's the drama? What happened?
These cards have been proven to be racist.
I mean, it sounds like you're saying they banned some cards or something, but what's the issue? Send me a tweet about it. M8566 for $2 says, any plans for episode 350? I don't even know what number are we?
We're at 340.
Oh, no. So the answer is no, because I didn't even know we were coming there. Approaching.
When we get to 349, we start doing decimal points. We do 349.1, 349.2.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we get to 349.9, we do 349.3. 9.91. We never make it to 350.
Mhm.
God, the last thing we want to do is another like big, oh my God, we hit a round number episode. I always feel like they're like a big bust. I know Sitch doesn't want to do them. I'm the one that's always saying, oh, we got to do it. We got to do it.
I never want to do it, but
Yeah.
did Commander never have card bans? I never played Commander, so I didn't know if it had bans or not. Is that the issue? Commander, let's see. Commander banned and restricted announcement. Is that the
M8
issue?
M8566 for $5 says, isn't the next turning in 2033? These are the hard times. That sounds like 8 years of Kamala to me. Oh my God. But that's the thing though. Yes, you got it exactly correct. The next turning begins in 2033. So we are in the climax turning. But in the climax turning is the transformational leader that will be the next George Washington, the next Abraham Lincoln, the next FDR. So if you think Kamala Harris is going to be the next FDR, I mean, the way it could play out is Kamala Harris is a big fat bust and Josh Shapiro wins in 2020. Like we could get Trump, which I mean, just to really light up Destiny's subreddit, Trump could be the transformational president. Trump could be the next Abraham Lincoln, which would be pretty ironic considering he already compares himself to Abraham Lincoln. So, but that could happen. Kamala could lose. Trump could win. Trump could not be the transformational president, and the transformational president could be in 2028, which would be, I don't know, maybe Josh Shapiro or something. I don't know. You guys on the right, I don't necessarily know who you're looking at in 2028 as like who you would pin as your transformational president. It's Ted Cruz, right, Sitch?
Oh God.
Ted Cruz is
that cuck? No way.
is a transformational guy.
That cuck couldn't transform his way out of a fucking bumblebee. All right.
Is it JD Vance? Is that the next Abraham
JD
Lincoln?
Vance has the charisma of Plank from Ed.
Oh no,
Eddie.
wait,
He's not gonna
I
win
got
an
it.
election.
It's Vivek. Vivek.
I feel like Vivek could be transformational, but everyone hates his guts, so I don't see how he can win.
Oh, maybe it's Nikki Haley.
Okay. Well, isn't the whole theory that it's not necessarily the person, it's that they're just a person in a situation and they just have to be transformational to survive the situation?
Yeah, the times make the man, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So we got some serious hard times coming, and whoever is president is gonna meet the challenge. But I question the time, and they even in the book, we're talking about the fourth turning is here is the name of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the author, but they are saying, I mean, it could end in 2033. That's their estimate, but it could be longer than that. So it would be, I mean, Trump winning and being the transformational president would be interesting just because, oh, that's got to be the most ironic twist of fate ever, right? And they did call Abraham Lincoln, the South fucking hated Abraham Lincoln, called him a tyrant, a dictator, all that shit, all the stuff the left calls Trump, the South called old Abraham Lincoln. You remember that guy?
I remember that guy.
Freed the slaves. Can you even say slaves these days, or is that like a microaggression?
So more importantly, they banned 4 cards from Magic the Gathering Commander format. Everyone's mad about it because 3 of the 4 cards were specifically for Commander format. And then also, I think more importantly, it's just that a lot of people spent money on these cards and now they're banned. And then the price of the cards and the value of the cards obviously plummets when they're banned from standard format. So
And what was the value of the cards? Were they like rare cards or something?
yeah, well, now this is, I don't know, it's a random comment. I don't know if it's true. They're claiming the prices for some of the cards, it was $85, went down to $30, $90 went down to $35, $194 went down to $81.
Ooh, ouch.
So
That's called market manipulation, Sitch.
when they say banned and like, when they say banned for casual play, what does that mean? Like, who gives a shit? Like, when you're playing casually, like, who gives a shit about what's banned or not? Playing with your friends. They're talking about, I'm assuming they're talking about like
Yeah, they
tournaments or something.
should be banned for official play, right?
Well, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about, but Crypt would be
Crazy.
enormously expensive. Interesting. Well, it's unfortunate for anyone who spent a bunch of money on those cards, and now you can't even play them anymore.
You still
Okay.
against the death penalty now that you know this injustice is in the world?
I'm not. I've never been against the death penalty.
Oh,
I was the
look.
one that said the death penalty should be reconfigured so it's once if you commit crimes in prison, then they should give you the death penalty.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, you read that one. Ostracy for $5 says, when reading that from Drinker, all I thought was female custodies and Warhammer 40K. There you go. M8566 for $2 says, make Tuesday streams great again. Yes.
We're doing our best.
Floki VT for $2 says, old guy in the beginning looks more like old Woody Harrelson.
Oh, someone finally came in.
I agree. I think
with
he looks
the
more
Owen
like
Benjamin.
Woody Harrelson than Owen Benjamin. Yeah, I agree with that.
I just don't know what you're talking about. Is that it, or we got other super chats?
Arithmus
like
for
way late.
$2 says, Sitch, did you look into her Senate voting record? The thing that would indicate her values more than when she talks about when she's campaigns? No, because as I talked about, we were looking for I was looking for when she was, as was my original claim, was not when she was in Senate, was when she was Attorney General. So, but I haven't looked at that yet.
We'll
we
look
should.
into that though.
We should. Arithmus for $2 says, I agree with Adam. The state has the power to enact justice, including capital punishment, because if people perceive the state as not enacting justice, the people will take it into their own hands.
Yep.
There you go.
Exactly right.
Saul for Joe says, how do you respond to someone who says you shouldn't disagree with them because they are black, woman, teacher, etc., and they know that subject more than you do, so you should stay in your lane? I think you should just call them a fucking racist and say, well, I don't like talking to racial supremacists. I don't like talking to racists and race supremacists. You fucking racist piece of shit. And then you should whip out your dick and pee on them. Okay, maybe you should do that last part.
Yeah, what if...
Just call them a racist. Tell them the fuck off.
Wouldn't that be sexist?
It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
Saul for 2 hours says, never seen it, but is it as hypocritical to like, am I racist? If you are also sick of politics and media, I think most people who say get politics out of my movies are exaggerating. Plus, political means partisan to most people. It's not hypocritical because, okay. So the argument, and this is why it's not hypocritical for a drinker to make that statement, or really anyone, is that when people say get your woke politics or get your politics out of my movies, what they mean is take politics out of fictional stories that don't really or shouldn't really have anything to do with current event politics, right? So if there's an episode in the new Star Trek TV show that's like very clearly, oh my God, Donald Trump is a big racist, how dare you have immigration control, right? Which was an episode in like season 2 of the new Star Trek Picard show, right? So it's the Star Trek Picard making a very clear statement about the current political situation that has a it's like a divisive political situation. Half the country believes in favor of stronger immigration control, and at the time of the episode, which was like 4 or 5 years ago, half the country didn't. Now it was a little bit more of people agreeing that we're all on board with more control. So, pie in the face for that one. But so that's what people generally mean. They don't want this sort of like divisive, very clearly choosing a political side in the left-right spectrum and the Democrat-Republican spectrum. They don't want that very clearly in their mainstream movies and television shows. That's entirely different than if someone goes out into the world to create a nonfiction documentary or mockumentary, if you want to characterize it, style movie that's explicitly about a political topic. That's completely different. Everyone knows what they're going into when they go to buy a ticket to Am I Racist? It's Matt Walsh. It's not a trick. They're not trying to subvert their political values into some other, mainstream property. So these are very different things.
I just looked up Kamala Harris's voting record. And it says that she's more liberal than 97% of Democrats in the 117th Senate.
There you go.
I wonder who's more liberal.
Bernie Sanders and AOC.
Oh, okay.
Solid for $2 says, have you heard of Best of Outrage Culture? Your video on the 18 algorithm report was featured on it as an example of outrage. The 2018 algorithm report? What even is that?
I don't know.
Ric Flair almost ran for NC governor in 04, but didn't because he was over $100 in unpaid parking tickets. That's pretty funny. Best of outrage culture. Now, is the best of outrage culture like a pro or an anti?
I don't know.
Well, it's funny. When I type in my name, I see, oh, look, another fanboy of James Damore. So I guess we can see where their politics are.
Oh, yeah. James is cool.
Then they complained about me explaining P plus P equals R. So.
Oh, they don't want people knowing about that, obviously.
Right. I guess this is the James Damore things that you're talking about.
What are the big bills from the 117th Congress?
God, this is from so long ago.
Off the top of your head.
What?
Do you remember the big bills in the 117th Congress? I'm sure you can rattle them off just off the top of your head.
The big bills that passed or came up for votes? I don't remember. Jesus.
Actually, I want the important bills.
No.
Important bills from the 117th Congress. What are some of the most significant bills that passed during the 117th Congress?
Yeah, but the thing, if you want to check the voting record, it's not just passed, because she could have voted for a bunch of things that failed. That would get her marked as like super far left on that little chart that you read.
For the first time in nearly 3 decades, Congress enacted major gun safety legislation. I voted to pass the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Oh, where's this from? Who's saying aye? Did it pass?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't name it by. I wish it had a number because then I could look it up. Anyway, go ahead. Let's wrap up. We're
I'm
like
trying,
super
but
late.
you keep bringing up shit.
Okay.
So for $2 says CD's review of Killers of the Flower Moon, Critical Drinker's review of Killers of the Flower Moon is the ultimate proof he isn't racist. His biggest problem with it is that it doesn't focus enough on the Osage Indians. YMS said he doesn't think Critical Drinker is malicious in that OG stream. Well, there you go. I'll check it out. I haven't seen Killers of the Flowers Moon or Critical Drinker talking about it. So, okay. Is there anything else?
Yeah,
JMac for $5 says, Sitch, I think you missed a $100 super chat. If not, disregard. I thought I read it. Oh, no, I didn't. You sent in a new one that I haven't read. Yes. Oh, wait. No, I did miss it. How did I miss that?
Yeah, what's up with you, Sitch?
How did I miss that? JMac, our Sergafar, thanks so much for the $100. What a piece of shit I am for missing this. Definitely. Says, hey, idea for a future Sitch and Adam Super Enlightenment fan meetup. I can rent out a place that can facilitate a bunch of CRTVs and bring a bunch of retro consoles and games to split screen it up. Escapism by blasting the past to the nerddom of the 80s, 90s, and aughts.
Love it.
It's a great idea.
This is like playing video games on a big projector where everyone can watch in awe.
Was a bunch of CRT TVs, so
Yeah. Oh, well,
that'd
that's
be
even
pretty
better.
crazy.
Look at that.
Right.
Insane.
How did I miss that? Jeez.
You're so crazy. I don't
know.
know. Look at all this
Sacrifice artist
response.
says some people are claiming that the Walsh thing is bad, dishonest because he used deception and lies to get into interviews with people like Robin DiAngelo. I mean, that's a pretty pathetic. It's a pretty pathetic argument. Who cares? You know,
Didn't Robin
people-
DiAngelo delete all her social media because of it?
supposedly. People do all sort, like reporters do all sorts of undercover reporting where they're sort of deceptive in order to quote break a story, and they only care when it's against the politics of the side that they don't like. So I don't know. If that's the only argument they can sort of levy, I'd say that shows that they're losing. Okay. Anyway,
Got to be totally honest when you set up to take down Robin DiAngelo, right?
yeah, right. Anyway, thank you guys for coming. Thank you all for your incredibly generous super chats. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow and actually watch the video.
Don't make any
watch
promises,
today.
Sitch.
That's true. Who knows? Who knows? So
We'll try.
we'll try.
All right. Bye-bye.